Live from Deathray Studios in the sunny West Valley of Phoenix, it's Late Night with the Davey. Appearing on tonight's show, YouTube content creator and all-around awesome dude, Killjoy Jake. And now, ladies and gentlemen, your host, Davey Deathray. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here. And yeah, we're back for another edition. Guys, this is the 15th episode of Late Night with the Davey. Thank you so much for tuning in. Man, the stream is just filling up already. I love it. I love it. How are you guys doing on this lovely Wednesday? You know, technically, we're more than halfway through the week. That's great. That's good stuff. Some of you hung out with me last night while I went on a little bit of a rant, but hoping I'm wrong about the Crystal Lake TV series. That was a lot of fun. So really appreciate you guys jumping in on an impromptu stream. I don't do many of those, but you know what? I woke up feeling a certain kind of way, and I just had to get that off my chest. So thank you guys so much. Just want to see who's in the chat and say what's up to everybody. We've got our guy, Eli Cortez here, a great channel member. And Eli is the sweetest dude. He sent over a couple of care packages, tons of movies that I still need to go through, films that I've never seen, like Demons, which we did a live watch party of on the channel. That was my first time watching that Italian classic horror film. So thank you so much, Eli, for everything you do here at the channel. Love having you in the chat. Looks like he's saying, I recently found Killjoy Jake on my feed and popped in a couple live streams. He's a cool cat. Oh, yeah. I wonder how, maybe YouTube's really smart, because I've been watching a lot of Killjoy Jake for, the last month and a half-ish. But yeah, like I've said before on the channel, guys, there is so much, so much content creation out there that's right up my alley. And for whatever reason, YouTube sort of holds back. I don't know if it's because I have a whole bunch of different interests and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Killjoy Jake here, 6 weeks ago, I find his channel, stumble upon it. This guy's doing great. His channel is very successful. He's high energy. It's right up my alley, like I said. And for whatever reason, just found him. It seems to be happening all the damn time. And we got Big Rod in the chat, one of our great channel members here. How you doing, Big Rod? Saying what's up to Eli. Be back at 7, trying to soak up some fantasy football. You got to do that. You got to get your fantasy football ducks in a row. Absolutely. How you doing, Raymond? Another amazing channel member here. We've got Necromechanimal, who just keeps on knocking it out of the park with the amazing mashup thumbnails that he's doing over there on Instagram. Guys, if you don't follow Necro on Insta, give him a follow. It's really fun stuff. Every single one seems to impress me more than the last. Oh, and we've got the Ribbit. Is that Jake's face? Is this like another account of Jake's, or is this just like a super fan? This is incredible what we're seeing here, because that body that Jake's head is crudely pasted over is a very impressive body, to say the least. That is, it looks like a Bobo from Double Dragon's body. Like the muscles are just muscles on muscles on muscles. Let's see who else we've got in the chat. Noah Atkinson, what's happening? He is a cult member of Killjoy Jake. Well, welcome to the stream, Noah. Everybody in the chat, there you go. Eli's already saying welcome. We got Raymond saying what's up. Yeah, make the new people feel very welcome here, because, Jake has been amazing about talking about this stream, bringing everything up when he goes live, which is multiple times a week. And yeah, so I would imagine maybe we're gonna get some new folks here in the chat. That's always great to see. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I came from there. That's what's up, because Jake was just streaming a couple hours ago, and the link just kept on getting dropped in the chat there. So really appreciate that. And yeah, this will be really exciting to see who pops in. Noah also says that Deadpool and Wolverine is the best movie of the year. I've yet to see it, and all the spoilers that I saw like 3 days after it came out kind of killed my boner on that movie. So I'm gonna probably wait till streaming because I feel a little jilted, jilted lover there. Trap was decent. All right, yeah. M. Night seems to be great at coming up with concepts, but him and JJ, they're awesome concept guys, but sticking the landing, that's pretty important, right? Yeah. Gory Tigers in the chat. What's happening, Gory? And we've got Fachi Cinema. My guy Matt says, Davey cheating me on again. This is getting to be too much. It's okay, Matt. It's okay. I hope we can mend fences after the stream. I'll hit you up on Insta. I miss you. I miss you. I miss your musk. Let's see who else is in here. What's happening, Antonis? Another great channel member here. Boom, we got Killjoy Jake talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 rocks, and no one can tell me otherwise. Yeah, we're going to get into a little bit of that because a week from today is the 15th anniversary of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And yeah, I really like that movie. So it'll be fun to chat a little bit about it. Let's see who else is here. Nicholas McMath. Hey, Davey, sorry I'm late. How are you doing? Doing great. And 17 likes is incredible, Nicholas. Thank you so much for the like count. I know I can always depend on you for that, and I love it. And you bring the positivity as well. Oh, Noah says Dallas Cowboys fan right here. America's team. I'm a Texas man. Well, that's great. I hate to cause any friction here, but I am a Washington fan, so I'm sorry. But you know what kind of evens out the scales is both of our teams haven't really accomplished anything in about like 35 years. So at least we're in the same boat right there, huh? Because playoffs don't matter if you can't even get close to the big game. And we got Prince in the chat. What's happening, Prince? We've got Jamie Hart, one of our Death Squad mods here. She used to be the lone mod. And then I roped Cody Snyder in. Cody Snyder, who is a mod on every other horror channel, it seems. I was able to get him to join up with me as well. Actually, I just bestowed upon him the powers, and I don't even know if you can reject those powers. I don't know if YouTube does that, but we'll see. Aaron Click is in the house. What's happening, Aaron? We got Blu-ray Addict. How you doing, Blu-ray? Toronto Freddy catching another live. I love to see it. There's Cody Snyder. He can let us know if he begrudgingly took on the mantle of mod. Just let us know, Cody. And we're going to get to some of what you're talking about right there about preferring the RZH2 over the remake. Absolutely. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anyone else because, guys, we are getting to about time to bring on our guest. What's happening, Based Logic? Great to see you. I remember you had hopped in. Was it the Demons watch party or was it a Tales from the Crypt watch party? Because, guys, anyone that's new to the channel, I'm reviewing every episode of Tales from the Crypt. I absolutely adore that show. I'm a big Twilight Zone fan myself. To me, Tales is like an extension of that kind of storytelling. I really dig it. Great to see you in the chat again, Based Logic. And yeah, guys, our guest tonight, Mr. Killjoy Jake. This guy, man, incredible voice, incredible energy. I really love his hot takes. His, even if his opinions are different than mine, I find them fascinating. It's always awesome just to sort of hear why somebody feels differently than you. I think that's something that's invigorating within the community and not something that needs to be anything else other than, just the seeds for a great conversation. Really love checking out his channel. The chat just goes all the way. It's insanely successful. So hats off to him for all of that. And this guy's a big Terrifier kid. And, for those of you who have been watching me on the channel for a little bit, about how, I'm pretty much brand new because I avoided it for so long, afraid that it really wasn't going to be my cup of tea. And we'll save some of the Terrifier chat for when Jake is in here. But yeah, guys, if you're not subbed already, I'd be surprised. But if you're not, there are links in the description below where you can check out Jake's YouTube. You can check out his Instagram. And he also has a gaming channel. If you're into watching gaming channels, he's got one called Golgotha. And there's a link in the description below for that as well. Jake's working really hard to get that one up and running. So if you haven't given it a sub yet, hop on in, show him some love. And yeah, guys, without any further holdup, let's just go ahead and bring him in. We got Mr. Killjoy Jake. How you doing, bud?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Oh, it's going great. It's been a heck of a week, and I'm sure it's been a pretty busy one for yourself as well.
A lot of horror news this week, man. I'm not complaining.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's been, the horror news is interesting because do you ever get the feeling, I know you hopped in on the stream last night for a minute. Do you ever get the feeling that sometimes it's like, man, maybe they just want us to, like, I mean, us, the fans, but also content creators, to keep their stuff afloat while they try to like really figure out what the hell they're doing. Like we get these tiny nugs that don't seem too meaty.
I totally feel that, especially with the with the new Crystal Lake news, which, like, we got a new showrunner and all that, but like still, what's going on with this series? I feel like we've been talking about this for years and we still don't have a clear picture as to, is Jason in here? Is it not, is it just a Pamela story? What's happening with this thing, man?
Yeah, it's going to be 2 years come October. And based on everything I read from the Bloody Disgusting article, it seems like they're scrapping everything other than the title and the fact it's going to be a prequel, because the new guy, Kane, they've given him, he's now the creator and writer. So to me, it's like they've bailed on everything. It's a total reset. So I'm sort of like, I'm like, we'll be lucky if we get something before 2026, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But I'm curious too, because I think there are so many great opportunities for them to knock this out of the park if they handle it the right way. And it'll be interesting to see, because A24 has certainly been successful with film, but how are they going to handle sort of becoming like the Blumhouse Junior, like the production company that's like, let's buy something that's an existing IP. Let's see if we can sort of mold it in our fashion, but also present some of the elements that are still like tenets of that franchise. How are you feeling about it at this point?
It's definitely a weird studio to tackle Friday the 13th, but I'm kind of here for it at the same time. I'm excited to see like more of an artsy lens on this, just a pretty typical slasher franchise. I remember when they talked about doing a Pamela focused series, and I'm like, dude, I'm like totally into that as a Friday fan, but I think I just like the idea of, just going, we need a Jason thing, a Jason property right now, something with Jason on screen killing people. It's been 15 years since we've had that, I don't think the fans are going to be like super warm to something like that just right off the bat. It's almost like starting your Halloween trilogy with Halloween Ends opposed to Halloween 2018, right? It's like, give us the weirdest idea you have versus something a little more familiar.
Yeah, and sort of like what, JJ did with doing The Force Awakens. Like, here's something that's very reminiscent of what you already love, but I'm going to make sure that the details are different. So it feels like a warm blanket that you've had for years, but, you're in a whole new cabin. It's a totally different experience. And yeah, I think, like, do you think it's possible? I mean, it seems like maybe this is the direction they're going with Halloween, is sort of like, can't we do both sort of at the same time? Like, can't we give you the TV show, and after season 1 is done, like maybe we do a movie that's Jason, and who knows if they're part of the same universe, but like you get something fresh and new, and then you get something familiar, on the other side of it. Like, what do you think about something like that?
Dude, that's the problem, because I would love that. If like the announcement came kind of similar to what's going on with the Alien right now, we just got Romulus, now we're getting this Alien Earth series, to do something like that would rock. But as we know, the film rights are just trapped in that fictional New Line vault somewhere, right?
Yeah.
God, I would love to get a new movie alongside a crazy, maybe more weird and experimental TV show. I'm so here for that. But I think bottom line, you need Jason killing people in a new Friday property before you try to tackle something just a little stranger like that.
Gotcha. So you want to see a Jason movie or something Jason related before the Crystal Lake series, which probably is like just as likely as getting the Crystal Lake series in 2025 would be putting together a Jason movie at this point. I mean, when they did Halloween 2018, they might have announced it at the very end of like 2016. But to me, it seems like the news started coming out in 2017, and then boom, 2018, we have the movie. And of course, everyone has their issues with that, and it's one movie versus like the concept of a show and all that stuff. But still, it seems like once they hired the people that they trusted, they sort of hit the ground running. And I think honestly, like, I think what Halloween has above everyone else is Malik Akkad is there for the fans. You know, I was at age 45, got to bump into him a few times. The guy is extremely friendly. Cody Snyder, who's one of our mods here in the chat, can attest to that because we both had a really fun experience with Malik at age 45 while we were hanging out together. And to me, I'm like, that's the difference. Like, you can say what you want about the product and you can have your gripes about if the movie's worked or not, but he understands that the fans want the product and that he knows how to give it to them. And it's not just like, here's Michael in a Fortnite, you know, skin that you can put on your character. It's like, no, here, the movies are the most important thing. And then, yeah, we're going to do board games and like now we're doing video games and all that stuff. But the main thing is always the main thing. And the main thing are films, you know?
Right.
I feel like that's what Friday and Nightmare are really missing right now is somebody that's just like, I understand the fans and I have the rights. So I don't know I don't know which way is up here. Of course, I'm sure you might agree with this. Like, I would love it if they at least brought Vincent DeSanti into the room and had a conversation with him, because what he's been able to do, not just on the technical side of it and the artistic side, is he's been able to make fans really happy with Jason. And he's probably the most well-educated fan.
Dude, and you know, I really enjoyed Never Hike Alone. Like, the first one was really good, but the second one, like, I consider that part of the franchise. It's that good. I don't know, man. I was just blown away by that sequel. It is up there with some of the movies. Heck, I would even go so far as to say I like it better than some of the sequels. It's so well done. So if they don't, frankly, if they don't get him involved with whatever the next movie project is, I just feel like they're missing out. At least a consultant, a producer, something, man. I mean, some kind of some role creatively in the next one.
Absolutely. Just, you know, be a consultant, be the guy that's like the intermediary, you know, and then you have a direct line to the fans, somebody that the fans already trust, you know. So if you brought on, maybe they just don't know. I don't know how they wouldn't know at this point with how many views those damn movies have, but maybe they're just so like, you know, far removed from the world of us, you know. There's not a Malik out there that knows that there's someone in the fan space that's contributing so much, you know, for nothing.
Well, I think going back to what you just said, I think there are, like, Malik Akkad, someone who has the rights and is passionate about it, right? We have people that have the rights, and then we have people who are passionate about it, and I think we've already pretty much mentioned them. You know, we have Sean Cunningham, we have Victor Miller, and then we have Vincent DeSanti. You know what I mean? It's just like we have that guy who wants to push this franchise forward, wants to give us that official 13th movie, but it's so tied up in legal BS. I don't know when it's going to happen, man, but I really hope it does. I don't, like, at this point, I'll take the Blumhouse Friday the 13th. I just want something.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why a movie like In a Violent Nature did really well, because while it does have like a concept that's different, you know, a lot of that like third person floating camera, Resident Evil 4 kind of viewpoint sort of thing, which was revolutionary at the time, if no one knows. You know, I feel like, you know, Johnny in that movie is sort of like, you know, for all intents and purposes, like we're sort of watching Jason, just like a little bit of a tilted perspective, you know. And it just goes to show, like, people want this, you know, a very simple idea, but people want it for sure. And I liked the 09 remake.
Yeah.
You know, not everything, like, not everything totally works for me, but there's something about Marcus Nispel, man. What he did with TCM 03 and what he did with Friday 09, he brings this brutality. You can feel the force with his direction and the way he uses the camera. And honestly, maybe this is a hot take. I think it's the most interesting Jason's ever been. To me, he's like a spider and Camp Crystal Lake is his web. And it's like, if you trip that little tripwire, like, he's going to pop up out of a secret hatch, trapdoor, tarantula spider Jason, and pull you on down. And I found that, like, refreshing.
Oh yeah, Derek Mears' take on the character is like so refreshing, so different, and just it's so unique to that one film, because we're typically used to him just being like a big hulking drone, you know, just kind of walking around taking people down, and it's kind of fun, right? You're almost kind of rooting for him. I'm scared of 2009 Jason, dude. Like, he's a scary MFer.
He's got that really cool, like, there's something about like that Victorian jacket that he's wearing. He's just got this different look. If I remember correctly, he uses like a different implement of destruction every time, which is really cool. They go back to the whole camp thing. So he's throwing hatchets, he's shooting arrows. Like, it's all sort of tied into the theme of like things that you would end up doing at a camp, and
Right.
man, there's some epic shots. Him on the house with the big floodlight behind him, kind of like that reveal that to me is sort of like poetry with Richard Brooker's Jason in part 3, when after he shoots the 3D arrow and then turns to the house and looks, it's got that kind of symmetry there. And I think it's one of the biggest shames in horror that we never got another Derek Mears. Like another Derek Mears Jason movie would have been incredible. I'm not saying the guy's too old right now. If he's up for it, bring it on back. But 15 years is a long time,
Dude, yeah, man. And I don't know if you ever read some of the like script excerpts from what the sequel was going to be about. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Not as good as Davey's. Dear God, you're coming for my voice here, man.
It's the battle of the radio voices, everybody.
I don't even have to put any just listening to this.
Yeah, what did I say? Cream and jeans in the streams.
Absolutely, man. But yeah, I mean, it was gonna be like a snowy, like another 20-minute long opening to this 2009 movie on frozen Crystal Lake. Oh my God, I would have lost my mind over that, dude. So I hope maybe it happens one day. I'm just keeping my fingers crossed at this point. It's been 15 years, 15 long years. So maybe we'll finally get something, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's a good segue. Speaking of 15 years, is we do have that Rob Zombie 15th anniversary of his Halloween 2. And man, I'm one of those people that walking away from his remake, I didn't completely hate it. I thought it was sort of like ugly and dirty in a way that I don't really associate with Halloween. Maybe I associate it more with something like Texas Chainsaw. But at the same time, I just sort of felt like the remake was like unnecessary, because I think the first movie is just so damn good at setting it all up that to try to retell the same story just seems like, maybe the production company is just sort of, it's masturbation at that point. It's just like, well, let's just do it, And then on his sequel, he was actually able to like, all right, Rob, go ahead and make the movie that you want to make. And for me, I heard for so long that it was garbage. When I actually sat down and watched it for the first time, I was like, that's one of the better Halloween movies I've seen, period. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, and we're talking about the thousands, which is a big time for remakes and horror, and not all of them are great. We pretty much just covered a lot of like the biggest the biggest talked about ones. If it's 2003 Texas Chainsaw or 2009 Friday, I think that the problem here is that it was just part of a trend. You know what I mean? It's like, well, we have to remake Halloween because all these other movies are getting remade. You know what I mean? Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, this, that, whatever. I think that's kind of the issue with it. Is like the first one is just a remake, but with Rob Zombie style, tacked onto it. It almost feels right. But then you get to that second one, and it feels like Rob Zombie having the freedom to do what he wants. And not everything works about it. I'll admit that, but I enjoy it kind of for the same reasons that I like Halloween 3. It is very much so its own thing, yet it's still a part of this slasher franchise for whatever reason. It feels almost more like psychological horror at times. It has that grittiness of the first one, but maybe even in a more effective light. I don't know. I love it. I like dark, depressed Michael Myers. Again, I think you have to watch it knowing it's a Rob Zombie movie, not a continuation to Halloween. If you can put yourself in that mindset, I think most people would enjoy it more. But that's a tough thing to do when you're asking someone to watch a continuation to Halloween still at the same time. But I enjoy it just as the standalone weirdo flick that it is.
Yeah, he is. There's something interesting about Rob Zombie because clearly you can tell that the passion is there. And I think like visually, his movies are beautiful. I think he's got like a lot of directors have like pulled from other great directors. I see a lot of Kubrick in what he does. Even in like Lords of Salem, all the symmetry and everything like that. And I think that he's got a great eye for it. Sort of like M. Night Shyamalan, who I mentioned earlier. Maybe somebody to help write some of the dialogue would be great, just to help you flesh out ideas. Somebody to bounce things off of, to be like, Rob, maybe we don't say skull fuck the shit out of you. Like maybe, or something like that. Or, by the way, William Forsythe's performance there is like amazing. But, the dialogue leaves a little bit to be desired. But I think there is something. I've thought about this. I actually think that Rob Zombie's sequel sort of works as a follow-up to the original. Like if you just watch the original Halloween and then you jump into a sequel and sort of think of it as like the fever dream sequel, of that one. It sort of works in this strange way. And admittedly, I know I mentioned this before, how I didn't like how grim the remake was. I know that the sequel is grim, but at least it's unique. And I applaud it for that.
I think I also care about the characters a little more, where I just didn't in the first Halloween. And I get that's the point,
Mm-hmm.
right? All the characters are supposed to suck, but I like that it feels like, it almost feels like a little less edgy, but I feel like that's why it works in Halloween too.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of edginess, nothing wrong with that. But if that's all you're leaning on, which in my opinion, that's really all that first Halloween from him has to it. I think that's why I like 2 more. It's just a little more well-rounded. It's got more to it. I love like Brad Dourif's performance when he finds his daughter dead is just like, that's one of my favorite moments from his entire career, which I don't know if that's insane to say, but he's got a great career, but man, I love that scene. I mean, it is him giving one of his best performances, man. And it's so emotional. It's so out there. And it's like, oh God, that sucks. I feel so bad for him. So to have that element where the first one didn't, I think really just propels that sequel forward, especially in my rankings.
Yeah. And I think, Scout is a great Laurie overall, but I think her performance in that movie just requires so much more. And I love seeing, one thing I talk about a lot here on the channel is I love seeing when artists like grow and challenge themselves and get better. It's something that I've seen from like actors like Melissa Barrera. We've seen it with like Robert Pattinson, where people just sort of like, they know that they've got that like passion and desire for the work, and you can see it in their subsequent films that they're like, they are getting better. And I think that Scout's performance in that sequel blows. She's given more to work with, granted, but it just blows the other performance out of the water. She really becomes her own version of Laurie.
100%. And nothing against the actress in the first movie at all, but I do just feel like she's trying to play Jamie Lee Curtis in the first one, where I feel like she does become her own character in part 2. And that's just the big difference. It's little idiosyncrasies like that. Even if it's stupid stuff like her talking to the teddy bear and stuff, like I feel like that makes it her own character. You might not like that, and that's totally fine. You might prefer Jamie Lee Curtis's version of the character, but I like that she was able to shine a little more, from the opening scene where she's walking down the road or whatever, covered in blood, freaking out. She has a lot more moments to shine in that one. How do you feel about Michael talking, by the way? That's a weird one.
That is a weird one. Is that in both cuts, or is it just in the director's cut? I'm trying to remember, because I usually watch the director's cut.
I think it's just in the one cut, and I genuinely can't. It's probably the director's cut. I can't remember.
I think it's in the director's cut. I'm not a fan of it because all he says is die. It's just sort of like unnecessary. Like, it's like, we get it, dude. You're stabbing him while you say it. Like, you don't need to say the word. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't ever need to hear Michael talk once he's an adult. Or at all. I didn't mind when little kid Michael's talking. Like, that's just a little bit of a different thing. But I always thought of, like, when you talk about the shape, and I kind of go back to, I'm not saying that I'm a Halloween purist. I'm no Dave McCrae, clearly. I mean, you can tell. But I do love mood and atmosphere. But yeah, I think that the idea that Michael is supernatural, but we're not gonna talk about it, I like that. Like, I really like the mystery. And I know that you weren't the biggest fan of Longlegs, but one of the things that I liked about Longlegs that they did is that they sort of walked to the edge of trying to do the supernatural thing, and then they sort of left you hanging there. And I kind of like that. I want the mystique there, and especially with somebody like Michael. With Jason, I kind of do want the lore to be reset. I want it to all make sense why he's a little boy when he drowns. He's a little boy when he jumps out of the boat, but then the next time you see him, he's a grown-ass man wearing a bag over his head. Like, I would be interested in having that sort of like congruent and figured out, because Jason is more of a by the numbers kind of slasher. But Michael, I think, is a bit more ethereal. So I like the mystery. I think the most fascinating he has ever been to me, honestly, is 2018. I was on the edge of my seat. Every time he was on screen, I was like, what is he going to do? And I'm thinking what the motivation is. And I think that's the genius of Michael, is that, like, he makes the audience think. An audience that's thinking is going to be a smarter audience, a more critical audience, and it's going to make the creators make better art.
Yeah, man, very well said. I think Michael's a mystery that never needs an answer, and that's how you make him his scariest, Like, anytime you try to pose something to explain that, which him talking, I would argue, is that, it shatters that mystique like glass. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just you have to keep that consistent if you want this character who is very simple at his core to be something scarier or something more than just a man stabbing people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think like what makes, it's the whole idea of that mask, right, was to create something that was unremarkable. They talk about it all the time. Like if you watch the documentary, they're like, we wanted something that was unremarkable, because something that has no distinct features is unsettling to our eye. It's uncanny valley before CG. It's just creating something that just doesn't look right. And then the fact, especially in the first film, and I think in the second film as well, the second film looks so much like the first film, even though the mask looks a little different on Dick Warlock's face. But every time you see the mask in a different lighting, it looks kind of different. It's like a thumbprint, it's like it never looks the same shot to shot, but it's the same mask. So I think there's also something sort of like Rorschach test about that mask. And I think, again, the David Gordon Green trilogy, say all you want about it, they got the mask right, maybe for the first time since 1981. Although I do like the curse mask quite a bit.
Dude, and again, I will. I've made entire videos just crapping on Halloween Ends, not to completely diverge, but
you're fine.
Love Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. Like, I mean, I have put them on like just as much as some of the other sequels now. I think they're some of my favorite sequels of the whole franchise, like easy top 5 movies.
Yeah. Honestly, the whole David Gordon Green trilogy, hope no one hates me in the chat here, they're all top 5 for me.
Hell yeah, dude.
They have, like, I really loved Ends, and I always have to qualify it. I hate that you have to qualify it, but I read an interview with David Gordon Green, and he had talked about, hey, there's this character, Corey Cunningham. He's going to be kind of like Michael's cohort. And it's so I went in knowing this is going to be something different. This is going to be some swinging for the fences every single pitch. So even if you strike out on 3 big swings, like you're trying to hit it over that big green monster, and I applaud them for taking chance, similar to why I love Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I feel like it's kind of the same thing with Ends, where it's like, I like that it's different. I have all of those other standard Halloween movies that I can go to, when I want something that's just by the numbers, I can go watch Halloween 4, which is essentially a soft reboot of the franchise. It takes the same beats. They it's kind of like The Force Awakens, where they change a couple details, but it feels very reminiscent. It's a similar song to what you've heard before. But it's great, but the mask, I don't know. But the idea that people, it's like, what would you rather have to watch in perpetuity? Halloween 5 or Halloween Ends? I dare you to pick. I dare you to pick Halloween 5, because, and this is just my opinion, it bores the hell out of me. By the time Loomis is saying, "Go home, Michael," I'm falling asleep. Like, I am like, I don't even want the last 20 minutes. Like, I'm done. So maybe that's just, kind of informs my opinion a little bit. Plus, I do think all the David Gordon Green trilogy movies look great. They sound great.
Oh, yeah.
Halloween Ends arguably has the best soundtrack, because not only does it have a great score, but it's like the first movie out of all 3, it stands out, where they actually picked like a mixtape soundtrack. And I think that is one of those really cool things about Ends. Another thing that sort of sets it apart, that it has like pop songs. The other movies don't have that, they don't, like, there's a really cool kind of vibe going on there. I am curious, because, you had talked about how you really, like 3 for standing out as well. It'll be interesting with Halloween Ends to see how people feel about it in 20 years, like to see how you and I feel about it in 20 years, let alone people that were born 5 years ago, that are going to grow up and they're not going to have any of the expectations or anything that you and I bring into it. And you and I come from different generations, but with this one, we're sort of together, both grown ass adults when we're sitting down watching Halloween Ends. So it'll be really cool to see how 25-year-olds, 26-year-olds will see this in 2050. Like, what are they going to think of Ends? And I think that's one of the most powerful, like, interesting things about film as an art form, is that you can always go back to it. You can always consider like the era that it was created in. And it seems like every generation of film gets a new chance. The Thing bombed in the box office, and now we talk about it as the greatest John Carpenter film of all time. So who knows?
Yeah. And, I think you hit a lot of really good points about ends too that I think just makes it better than most of the Thorn trilogy, man. Like
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about it. And I think a lot of it just comes down to like writing. I don't hate the idea of, you know, the transference of evil. I think that's actually really cool.
Yeah.
What I do, and another thing I do really like about it is it's very competently made. The kills are amazing in that movie.
Yeah.
The soundtrack I think is the best of the three, which might be a hot take. What is it, the junkyard or like the procedure? I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head, but man, all those like the tracks towards the end of that flick, I think are so well done.
Yeah.
John Carpenter and Cody and what is it, Daniel Davies did a great job with the soundtrack on all three of those movies. So I really think there are so many elements of all three of those flicks that are going to age very well, where that they already have some kind of massive plus upon the Thorn trilogy. Where 5 and 6, heck, I would even rope 4 into this, aren't made very well. I think 4 is very fun film. I agree with you. I do like 4. I think it's underrated. But 5 and Curse, I don't know. I think there was a time where I could get into Curse, but man, it makes no damn sense.
it is rough, and I do prefer the producer's cut for the most part because one thing, like I grew up watching the original for so long. The producer's cut, I think I got it, you know, on Blu-ray maybe like 10 years ago, something like that. But it was so rare. I'm just sitting at an FYP flipping through the cheap ass Blu-rays, and I'm like, what the hell? Producer's cut? Just sitting here?
Oh,
like this thing,
yeah.
like when I was a teenager, it was like that was like I grew up in this tiny ass town in Alaska. I didn't see Curse until it was out on VHS. It didn't hit my theater at all, you know. Of course it's not going to hit there. But there was something about the producer's cut with Curse where you get, you know, the soundtrack is a little bit more in line with the original feel. You get these longer tracking shots when Kara is on her college campus, and then when she comes home and walks around the house, that to me felt so reminiscent of the first film that it's enough to sort of bring me around on that. I do like the mask, and I think that George P. Wilbur does a better Michael in 6 than he did in 4. Yeah, I know that 4 gets so much love. Honestly, for me, it keeps on moving back. And that's just because I love I really enjoyed the David Gordon Green trilogy, despite its faults, because fuck, man, I mean, like, let's just be honest, like a lot of these movies have like glaring faults that we sort of let gloss over because of the nostalgia and just that we love the franchise. And there's nothing wrong with loving the franchise and still being critical of the things that are right in front of your face, right?
Yeah, and you know, another thing that I'm very apologetic with when it comes to Halloween Ends is that, you know, you go back and watch that first one, and I love it. It's a classic. I mean, it's truly one of the best horror movies ever made, but you do go back and watch that and you can tell it's a little older, it's got some cheesier moments to it. But what makes that film the classic that it is? What makes it so beloved by fans? It's the vibe, it's the atmosphere. I mean, it's unbeatable. It's unmatched. It's really the first like fall horror movie. You know what I mean? Like that's what makes it so special. I don't even care about the rest of everything else. I don't care about anything else going on. I can put that movie on at any time and just immediately be sucked into the world of that film and like the Halloween fall feeling that it captures so well, but maybe better than any film to this day. So I get why people like Ends, because it does have like the vibes down. You know what I mean? Again, the writing might not be crystal clear perfect, but you do manage to achieve that there, which I definitely have come around to certain aspects to it. It is probably still my least favorite of the new David Gordon Green trilogy, but I do have an appreciation for it, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think that's totally fair. Like I get why people have a tough time with that movie for sure. Like I totally understand it. And I think that's another great thing about like fandom and talking about films is as long as we just sort of like understand, you know. And I think like that's the most important thing, is like be able to articulate that opinion, because again, a smarter audience is going to beget smarter art, because we're not going to fall for the bullshit when they give us bullshit. Like, so even if like, and that's a big thing I bring up with Ends, is like, even if the story doesn't jive with you and you wish it were told differently, like that is a gorgeous looking and sounding film. And I do think the performances are really damn good. You know, the actors don't get to decide what's on the page. Maybe Jamie Lee Curtis gets to decide a little bit because she's a producer, but they don't really get to sit down and write dialogue. And I think, you know, I mean, arguably the dialogue's a little bit better, I think, in Ends than in Kills, but Kills, man, Michael is just fucking on one in Kills. And so all the Tommy repeating everything he says, it's like he's doing the Super Troopers repeater by himself in that movie. There's so many lines of dialogue where it's like, oh man, I just wish they would have given him a little bit of better direction there. And even though the whole Tivoli sidetrack and kills to me is like, again, kind of bringing back the Rob Zombie thing, like that's the ugliness that I don't want to see. But I do get what I think they're making kind of a profound point in Kills. And, you know, this is going to get like politically apolitical. I think one of the points in Kills is, hey, if you're part of a mob, probably not good, regardless of like what the hell you're doing. This is what mobs do. Mobs cause chaos. Mobs, like it only turns into something really ugly and tragic. And it's not the way to do business, regardless of how you feel. And I thought that was actually something that was like, you know, man, we don't see like political points subtly made in films very often. A lot of times lately, at least, you know, and people use their buzzwords and all that stuff, but it does seem like there's some heavy handedness. And I do think that all of that stuff can belong in films as long as you do it subtly. And I do think that's what they achieve in Kills. Did you pick up on any of that, or am I just like grasping at straws here?
No, I think there was definitely some intent there, without a doubt. And I do. It's so funny to me, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to sidetrack at all, but it's so funny to me because I think someone, like pretty much every Halloween fan, either has some take of why they don't like Kills or why they don't like Ends. Like I've heard it across the board, and it's again, you know, we were talking earlier about, you know, we disagree on some things, but I think that's a wonderful thing, and why that is, you know, coming down to what that is. Some people find the dialogue in Kills to be annoying, and some people find the dialogue in Ends to be out of character. Like I don't mind the annoying dialogue in Kills because I like these strong points that are being made in the film. It actually it has something to say through a lot of its goofiness, right? Like I mean, some of the kills are so outlandish and ridiculous. The what is it? The car door slamming with the gun and the girl like, you know, shoots herself in the face. That's ridiculous. But yet you still have this profound, almost social commentary diving side story. That's like, what? Like this is all the same movie. That's why I appreciate it for that reason, I guess. But I do at the same, on the same coin, I guess, on the same side of that, I get why people aren't here for it, because it is all over the place. It's a very messy movie, but it's a mess that I can really dive myself into. I feel like that's how people feel about Ends, who really strongly love that one.
Yeah, and I think Kills, maybe it's supposed to be like, maybe that is the intent of the vibe of the film. It's the middle chapter, you know, traditionally middle chapters of a trilogy can not get a little messy, but like they usually are a little darker, right? You know, you're thinking about The Two Towers, Empire Strikes Back, like that kind of vibe of just like, you know, we're not going to be at a consensus by the end of this film. It's going to seem up in the air, and it might be a little bummer at the end. And I think that maybe that's what they're trying to do in Kills, is just sort of like, it's a swirl of emotion. And I do think like I warm more up to Kills every time I watch it. And I didn't dislike it to begin with. But every time I watch it, I'm like, man, the things it does well, oh, it really does those things well. Like it knocks those things out of the park. Michael, again, very interesting, like creating the art piece by stabbing all those knives in Duder's back, you know, like that scene right there is so tense and so like, you know, the people that say Michael is boring, like my good friend Cecil Laird from the Horror Show channel, he took me under his wing when I first started my channel. I love Dylan's New Nightmare and all that stuff. And he's like, Michael's the walking wall. And I'm like, yeah, but the walking wall is more interesting than like Freddy or Jason at this point. Like you know, like at this point, like I'm not saying he's got more character. He's not like flashy or anything, but that is one of those things, again, a character that doesn't have to speak, but when you watch him doing that, and of course, you know, the intention of not really having him in focus, and yeah, I don't know, there's something about the way they approach Michael in Kills that to me, like it almost, it reaches that kind of Rob Zombie level, but I feel like it fits more my tastes in Kills than a Rob Zombie Halloween film.
I think a lot of it is because they they do have something to say with the characters. It's not just the most like evil, awful people you've
Yeah.
ever seen in
Yeah.
a movie, like in most of Rob Zombie's stuff. But I really am fascinated with Michael. I do agree. They've explored so many different plot lines now where he's utilized in so many different ways. You know what I mean? He's this big hulking figure in Rob Zombie's movies. He's scary. He's mean. He's almost misunderstood at certain elements of those movies. Then we get to see him here where it's like he is like the shape again, where it's just like he's this walking force that's just going to kill anything and everything in his way. He's just going to do whatever he wants, and it's not really with any rhyme or reason. He's just going to kill and he's going to go home, you know. And I really do love that about this franchise, that we've seen Michael interpreted in so many different ways by so many different creatives. We haven't seen that as much with Freddy or Jason. We've gotten sure, we have gotten a few different interpretations. I mean, Jason was a slug at one point, which, you know, we can't forget about that. Love it or hate it.
He was an Evil Dead slug. Dead.
He's in the Necronomicon, man.
They basically pitched that shit. They're like, and not only that, but Freddy's in this universe too. It's friggin' wild. Yeah.
Exactly. So I personally love that. I encourage sequels to these long-standing franchises because I really do think that there's so many different routes, even now still, you know, after 13 Halloween movies, I still feel like there's new directions you can take Michael Myers down.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I do think like there's something about, and I'm glad you brought it up when you were talking about him being hulking. And guys, we'll wrap up the Halloween talk. Don't worry about it. No, I'm just joking. We're going to talk about Halloween till 5 a.m. No, there was something like, I remember watching the, you know, Rob Zombie's Halloween in the theater. And I'm sitting there thinking I had a similar feeling when I watched Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, although I love that movie a lot more. But I had a similar feeling. The way I feel about Fast Zombies and Michael being 6'8" and like 300 pounds is like, I'm not even scared of this thing because you might as well just surrender to it. Like, there's nothing to me. I do think, you know, I know that James Jude Courtney is bigger than Nick Castle. What Nick Castle is like your kind of standard 5'10", 5'11" guy. And James Jude Courtney's probably, I would imagine, like what he was at Halloween. He was at age 45. I would say he's probably like 6'4" or something like that. But they when you put it on film, the way they shoot them, it is a good, like, you know, you don't really feel like there's a disconnect there. But I do think that one of the things that makes Michael scary is that it is a regular sized guy with supernatural strength that is not explained. And I think that's the thing that makes him scarier to me. Like, I don't need the brutality because Michael stalks the way real serial killers stalk, and he waits for his perfect opportunity. You know, he's like that cat that like wiggles its butt before it jumps on its toy. Like, he's hanging out behind the sheets, you know, he's hanging out behind the hedge, and he's just going to wait for the time that's the most opportune to do his thing. And I think, yeah, that's what makes him scary more than being, you know, brutal. But, you know, I do love Tyler Mane. You know, nothing against him or anything like that.
Yeah, Michael is slow and methodical, and he's just gonna kill. There's no reasoning with him, and that makes him scary. He's just a regular dude. I will say Nick Castle is shorter than I thought he was going to be. I saw him right after Scarefest, and I remember I'm like, oh, I'm going to meet, you know, Michael Myers is at the bar. This is gonna be awesome, and I'm like, he's like here on me, and I'm just like, well, what? You know, it's great. It's just shocking. It's Michael Myers.
He's older,
you know?
now. He's probably shrunk a little bit, right?
You're right. You're right.
How tall are you? Because I think he was 5'10" in the movie, so probably 5'11" in shoes. How tall are you?
People are never ready to see how I'm like 6'3". Like, people are never ready. Like, every time they meet me in person, they're like, I thought you were short. And I'm like, nah.
It's crazy. And it's probably just all about the way your camera's set up, because I met Darren and Frank from the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast. Have you watched those guys?
Oh, no, I don't think
you heard of that one. So they were at H45, and Frank is like, you know, when you watch them, they do every video together. And I was like, oh, Darren's got to be the short guy. Frank's probably like 6'4". It was the complete opposite. Like, Darren's this like, you know, 6'3". Well, I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm looking up, you know, I'm 6 feet tall, and I'm sitting there going, oh shit. It is wild. It's wild. Yeah. And, you know, I think there is something to be said for Michael just sort of feeling like every time I watch the original Halloween, it feels like more and more real to me. And I think that's one of the magical things about that movie is a lot of other movies that I watch, I become not disenfranchised, but just like they lose their magic. But I swear every time I watch the original Halloween, I'm like, I'm more creeped out. And I feel the same way about another seminal slasher film called Black Christmas.
Oh, hell
Every time
yeah.
I watch it, I'm more creeped out. Like Billy to me is just like so effective and so awesome and a great launch pad for everything we got after that.
I've been watching Black Christmas every December, like religiously for the last like 4 or 5 years. And I really think it's the best Christmas movie made so far. You know, Terrifier 3
Yeah.
might change that. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed. But man, Black Christmas it stood the test of time. I think it's one of the best horror. Honestly, it might be one of my favorite horror movies ever. I love
Yeah.
it to death. It's another one that really restrains you from seeing a lot of what's going on. But when you do finally get more pieces of the puzzle, it just becomes even scarier. It's got a hint of
Yeah.
humor to it. I love the characters. I don't know. It's so ahead of its time. It's a must watch for any slasher fan.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where like it doesn't feel as old as it really is. And I think that's one of those really cool things when you look back, you think a movie's going to like show its age. I've talked about Peeping Tom lately where a lot of people talk about Peeping Tom, they name drop it, they talk about it in Scream 4. So it's like people know that it exists. But when I first watched Peeping Tom for the first time, I was blown away at how good it was. Like, to today's standards, how effective the film was. And I think Black Christmas, similarly, like, I think it's really unsettling shit. Like my wife, I have to watch it like when she's out of the room or away doing something because she can't handle the Billy phone calls, which are you couldn't even, if you put those phone calls in a movie now, people would freak out. Maybe they would be okay with it in something that's like Terrifier, that's not like a major production, like, a major studio. But man, some of the stuff that Billy says on those phone calls is like, that's pretty gritty. That's some gritty shit right there.
I mean, I love the Scream franchise. I love some of those phone calls. The best phone calls in horror are in
Yeah.
Black Christmas, in my opinion.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Those are terrifying. That voice work there is so unsettling. It sounds exactly what I think a deranged serial killer would sound like if he got onto the phone in the 1970s. It's terrifying. It's a strangely progressive film, which like I wasn't even ready for seeing that movie again. And I'm like, this is 1974, and we're dealing with like a heavy topics here. It's I don't know. It's so ahead of its time. It does not feel like it's from the early 70s. Yeah, hard to believe.
Yeah. Not at all. And again, like I think they handle the progressive, like the political, or not political, but just like the sociological issues like really well. It's not just the 2019 film, which, to me is just like Black Christmas in name only. Like to me, that's like such a joke that I don't know how anyone could really take it seriously. It's sort of, but in the original film, the way they approach that is like, no, Jess has like all of these reasons for feeling the way she feels. It's not just because, hey, she's a woman, so she just is this way. And like, this is the way that like chicks are when they're in college. It's like, no, she's got like ambition and a life that she wants to live. And she doesn't know if like, this is how she wants to be tied down. So it's like, there's complexity to it. That's really interesting. And after how everything's going, like at the beginning of the movie, you see how conflicted she is. You have no idea why. She's sitting there just like, you can tell that she feels unease while the rest of her sisters feel fine. And then as the film goes on, and when you rewatch it the second time, you're like, oh yeah, she's going through like some pretty serious stuff here. And yeah, it's just, man, the way that it ends, and I want to talk about It's Me, Billy really quick, but the way that Black Christmas ends is that, I mean, you assume that she's toast because the cops have just drugged her so she can get a good night's sleep. And the camera pans out. There's one police officer outside of the house, and you start hearing the phone ring. And what happens every time after the phone rings? Like, Billy's still in the house. They don't know Billy's in the house. They never checked the friggin' attic. They don't even know that Claire's up there frozen. So that's an interesting way to like let the movie hang, that your heroine's gonna die.
Oh yeah, it's such an upsetting ending, and I think because you have that social commentary in there, you're rooting for her more. You want her to succeed, and you have that false triumph, like you think it's over, and then it's like, nope, he's still up there, man. I don't know. It's truly a brilliant slasher film, down to like its most minute details. I don't know. I love Black Christmas. I will watch it until the end of time. I have not seen the fan film, by the way.
So I will say this. I recommend checking it out.
I
I
need
think
to.
that, yeah, because so while they did hire an actor to play Billy, Dave does the voice.
Nice.
And, that's his forte. He's a voice actor by trade. That's his profession. And he does an incredible job. Like, to me, I can't tell the difference. The film looks gorgeous. I think with what they're doing with It's Me, Billy Chapter 2 is even better because they brought back like the whole crew and they have that experience. So it looks, I do think it looks a little bit better, but it really fits with what they already have done. And I think that like Dave and Bruce, they're just smart storytellers. They know it from our perspective. And then they also know how to put it on the page and make it make sense for everyone. And, Dave always talks about properly motivated mood and atmosphere. And if you have those things, like, I'm good. Like, go ahead and tell whatever story you want. If your story makes sense and it has like the vibe that I'm feeling, yeah, I highly recommend It's Me, Billy. Especially like if you enjoy Never Hike Alone, and have you seen Dylan's New Nightmare?
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
So I would say that it's right there with those. Like when I
Yeah.
think of Halloween, Friday the 13th, and A Nightmare on Elm Street as like brothers. Like I think of Never Hike Alone, Dylan's New Nightmare, and It's Me, Billy as brothers as well. And I think it's great that they chose a property that, they're Canadian, so they chose a production that was made in Canada, but also that they chose something that was not downtrodden, but something that's like a little more risky, a little more niche for sure.
And that is really cool. I've been meaning to check it out. I've been reading all the bloody disgusting articles on It's Me, Billy Chapter 2. I'm very hyped to see it. I love Dave McRae, just from his channel and his performance as Freddy in Dylan's New Nightmare. Oh my god, he's terrific.
Yeah.
I got to see what this is all about for sure before part 2 comes out.
Yeah, and what's great is, you're gonna go check out Terrifier 3 on October 11th. And when you get home from that experience, you can hop on over to YouTube and you can watch It's Me, Billy Chapter 2, because it comes out the same day, because that's the Canadian release of the original Black Christmas. So they're doing it on the 50th anniversary. So I thought it was sneaky for Damien Leone and his team to also pick that day as well. I don't know if they did that intentionally because they're fans of Black Christmas. I mean, I would imagine they're fans of Black Christmas, but I don't know if it was intentional. But I think this is a great time to kind of talk about Terrifier, because, we were talking about these horror icons from the past and, what it leads to in the future. And man, I got to say, like, you're a huge Terrifier fan. Everybody that knows you knows that. I think it's one of the great things one of the things I'm happy about that I found your channel is finding somebody that's like of a younger generation that has the same kind of excitement that I have about the things that I grew up with, and then seeing that, through your eyes with Terrifier, because, the first film for me felt like a proof of concept demo tape. Like it's not, I don't think there's any story in the first film. There are things that happen, but I don't think there's any story. But Art the Clown is very charming. David Howard Thornton is amazing in the role. Like he's, you're just mesmerized by him. The effects work is incredible. But to me, it's sort of like, it's like, let us show you what we can do with the effects, and then give us some more money so we can actually make a real movie. Which when I watched Terrifier 2, I was like, man, this is what I wanted. And it, even though it was 2 hours, 20 minutes, it did not feel like it. I'm really looking forward to Terrifier 3. I think it could be the best in the trilogy. What do you think? Or best so far? I'm not going to cap it at a trilogy. Best so far.
We've already heard Damien talk about a part 4, man. So I think I do agree, though. I think part 3 could be the best. I'm hearing some amazing things I definitely can't say on a live stream. But I will say I do agree. When I saw Terrifier for the first time on Netflix when it came there, maybe like 2018. I remember I was like just out of high school, and I was just, I heard like about some new horror movie, whatever. And I saw this, and I mean, it never left me. I had my criticisms. What's up, Erica? How you doing? How you doing? What's up? What's up? I just remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, sure, there wasn't like a crazy amount of story or whatever, but that clown's an icon. Like that guy's going places. And here we are now with Art the Clown being this huge horror icon. But Davey, it's interesting. I grew up in the thousands where we had those remakes that we were talking about earlier. We didn't have a horror icon really that was fresh. That was like our own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, like Jeepers Creepers,
Jigsaw.
But, screw that
Jigsaw
movie.
A little bit.
Jigsaw, yeah, sure, but like not really. He's not like, I wanted the guy who's running around killing people. You know what I mean? I love the Saw franchise. God, I like, that's one of my favorite horror franchises, but for totally different reasons, right? It's very thought provoking. It has that like conflict of morality and all that going on with it, which I really love. I can talk about Saw all day. Don't get me started, but Art the Clown feels like my generation's horror icon. I don't know. I think I'm too old to say that, if I'm being real at this point, but I've really clinged to the character for that reason. And I'm seeing, I saw Terrifier 2 and it blew my mind. It was everything I wanted the first film to be. And maybe even more. I love Sienna Shaw. I think she's a great final girl as well. Yeah. Some great character work in that movie. And I do think that 3 is going to be an even bigger step up. We have like, what is it, 8 times the budget now of Terrifier 2 going into this movie. And money's not everything, of course, but I do think, just from the teaser trailer we've gotten where we've actually seen some real footage opposed to the one that we got last November, we're seeing things from this movie that just make it look way more professional. It's still going to have that edge that Terrifier 2 has, those brutal kills, but I think the story elements, the acting, actors, set pieces are going to be an even bigger step up than what we've seen before.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, the story elements in the sequel, I'm like, that's what we need. Like, we need an anchor. Like, you don't necessarily want the villain to be the anchor. And Art the Clown, like you said, is great. I mean, the look is iconic, and I do think that he is becoming that horror icon. I think those things take time, but clearly, I've been to conventions, I see people with all their Art the Clown gear on, like that's what's up right now. And I think having better characters, a true story in there, even I think Art has more personality in the sequel. Like, I enjoyed him more, especially for not really liking I'll probably never watch the first movie again, just because I know where the story really starts. But I do think that what's really cool about these films is it seems like we're getting there's a progression of lore with Art the Clown that I'm really fascinated with, because there's that shot in the teaser of him doing the bloody snow angel and fading away. And I'm just like, I'm swimming in my thoughts. Like, what are they going to do with this guy? I know that maybe some things that you don't want to talk about, but it is really curious to be like, how supernatural are they going to make this character? And like, what's the next step? And is that going to be something that we're just going to see in every movie where there's a little, almost like a breadcrumb, like a Hansel and Gretel kind of thing, where we're just getting a little bit more of what he's all about. And, and will every movie kind of reach a new climax and then we learn something new? I mean, in this movie, is it Victoria? Is that the character's name? Yeah, it looks like they're bringing her back. So how is she going to kind of work into everything? What are you expecting from Terrifier 3, and where do you think they're going to go after?
It's really tough to say, but what I'm theorizing right now is we are going to learn a big piece of the puzzle of what is going on here. Because right now, we just saw Art the Clown's head get chopped off and get birthed out of out of one of his previous victims. What's going on? This is clearly not a man. There's so much more to Art the Clown than what meets the eye. I really think we're going to get an answer, get a connection. We also know that somehow Sienna's father was involved with whatever Art the Clown's origin is. We know that's a part of it. We know that something is going on there. And I already feel like we know that the character is going to be in there. We got a set photo of Jason Patric, actor from The Lost Boys, who is sitting right in front of a bunch of drawings of horror characters. And if you remember, Jonathan was talking about how, their father liked to draw horror characters. I feel like we're getting some flashbacks in Terrifier 3 to when the father was alive. I don't know what that connection is, but I do believe whatever the answer is as to what is Art the Clown, how do we stop this evil motherfucker, it's with the dad. It's something to do with the father and maybe these flashback character sequences, whatever. I don't know. I don't have the answers quite yet. I think this one is going to push some boundaries as well. I'm hearing things that it's going to be very, like, a little blasphemous, which I think everyone's obsessed with, the teaser trailer from this past November. We got to see a kid walk up on Art the Clown. What is he going to do? What's Art the Clown going to do in that situation? I don't know. Is he like Michael, where he sees a baby and walks the other way, or maybe not? I'm very fascinated on the former there, though. You know, what are they going to do to blast a certain religion, which that's getting into some controversial territory, of course.
Yeah, and it does, and also at the same time, I'm just sort of like, well, that just seems like par for the course for something like Art the Clown. Like, I wouldn't even be, I grew up Catholic and all that stuff. Like, the way I feel about all that is, pretty fluid as you get older and you think about all these things. And like, I'm sort of like, I'm all for it. Like in the world of art, like I want all expression to be fully free, regardless of how I feel. And regardless of whether or not I like it or it speaks to me, it's like, I want it to be out there. Because like the last thing I want to do is make people feel like they should like repress their artistic expression, because, at some point they're going to come for you once you start censoring stuff. So right. I sort of feel like, let's just have it. Like, let's go balls to the wall with what Art the Clown has. Yeah, people that acted like that's enough. If he's gonna kill a kid, I'm out. And it's like, oh, so you're fine with everything else. The first two movies were totally cool. Cutting off all sorts of body parts of people and like sawing somebody from their vajayjay to their jaws, like that's okay. But as soon as a kid's involved, you have to like get up and walk out of the door. To me, it just sort of seems like, come on, like, let them cook, let them do whatever they're gonna do.
I will also say, I don't think Terrifier, like in my opinion, I don't think it comes off with the intention to offend. It feels like a side effect of art's just nature. You know what I mean? Just what this thing is as a character. That's just what he naturally does. The story lends itself to things like that. I love that glass. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah. That's my Michael Tiki.
That's dope. I don't know if you can see, but I have like Annabelle and the nun and a bunch of them right there. That's so dope. Wow, my brain just like train of thought off the rails.
It's another FYP thing or whatever, Sam Goody or whatever the heck those stores are called. I haven't been to a mall in years.
Oh, nice. Well, I love it though. It's very cool. Yeah, but I don't think Terrifier has the intention of offending. I think it's just kind of a side effect of what would Art the Clown do in this situation, and naturally that's just what comes from it. We especially in Terrifier 2, I think we see that we have this emotional story at its core. With you have some fantastical Nightmare on Elm Street style elements to it, which make it really really fun and very like throwback feeling. But I think that. I don't know. I think a lot of people are thinking that Terrifier is just the edgelord franchise that's just here to offend. I think it's so much more than that. I think that's a very small element of what makes this franchise work, but there's so much more on top of that.
I think you're right. And I think after watching the first movie, I felt that way, where I was like, oh, this is just gross and dirty and I'm not getting anything from this. And then when I watched the second film, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I think I see what they're doing here. And I do think that there's some like fun loving quality going on with it, that it is this celebration of the absurd, and that's its own kind of art form, right? So like to try to compare Art the Clown to our traditional slashers or what we look for in traditional horror is not really what Damien Leone and his team are interested in creating. They want to create something that's wholly unique, and I think there's like a tongue-in-cheekness to it, sort of taking the piss out of it, sort of like professional wrestling it, it's like, yeah, you're gonna be so over the top, but like, guys, it's a fucking gag-filled horror movie. And maybe when you just see the images of art, you don't get it. Like you see the images on Twitter or wherever, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know. Like, and then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, there is some sort of like gleeful joy. And it is a great example of like awesome practical effects and a whole team of people coming together and creating something that's like really interesting. The way that Tom Savini would talk about how every horror effect is like a magic trick. Man, the magic tricks that they pull off in the Terrifier series are pretty damn impressive. And I saw Jamie had said something about how, she's like, dang, I said I would never watch Terrifier 2 because I didn't like the first one. Now I feel left out. And Jamie, after watching the first movie, I was like, man, can I even watch 2 hours, 20 minutes of that? And I tell you what, Jamie, the 2 hours and 20 minutes of Terrifier 2 felt not as long as like the 80 minutes of the first film, because Terrifier 2 has heart and characters. And literally pouring salt on wounds, which is a lot of fun too in a different way. But yeah, and the soundtrack, man. I mean, the is it? Gosh, what's the guy's? Paul Wiley? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah, yeah.
Really great soundtrack, really haunting. A little bit of a Halloween vibe there in the melody, but he's sort of like he finds his own creative little minor key spin on it. And then, of course, in the sequel, you know, the Midnight, those tracks from the Midnight that feel like they're, you know, you hear it like 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 times in the movie. It feels like part of the score. And I think that's another thing that like really brought it home for me with Terrifier 2, because I'm a huge music nut.
Oh yeah, dude, I just listen to horror scores sometimes when I'm editing here, and it just like it puts me in the vibe, you know. Just I love it so much. I have a lot of Paul Wiley stuff from Terrifiers 1 and 2 just in that playlist. It's great music, man. Again,
really good.
We were talking about atmosphere with Halloween. I think that especially Terrifier 2 has a great atmosphere to it. Created a lot, like almost solely from the music that is just another thing that adds so much to it. Alongside Stream, I don't mean to, you know, diverge too much, but Stream just came
go
out
for
tonight.
it, man. Yeah.
And Paul Wiley also does the score for that. Also very, very well done. So if you can get out to a screening of that, if it's near you or not, definitely check it out. If you like Terrifier 2, I think you'll dig this one.
Well, I live in Phoenix, so I would imagine that there's got to be a spot where I can check out Stream. And I've heard you talking quite a bit about it. Could you give us a little quick sort of Killjoy Jake, 30-second to a minute, like synopsis and review?
Well, Stream 2024 is about the Keenan family who drops on by one of their favorite hotels from the past, only to be attacked by 4 different killers playing a deadly game. It is so much fun. It has, like, name a B-movie horror actor from the 80s, they're in it. Like, I'm not even kidding. Jeffrey Combs. Why is that the only person I can think of? Tim Reed. Bill Moseley. There's a surprise guest in there. I think Barbara Crampton's in there. Felissa Rose. So many. I mean, the list goes on. It's the Expendables of horror, man. It's a blast from start to finish. Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton is one of the killers as well, which is great. Sweet. Yeah, it's a killer movie, man. If you can make it out to the theaters to see this one, I recommend it. One of my favorite kills in 2024 horror is in there as well, too.
Hell yeah. Well, and to me, it sort of looks like, just from what I've seen, is it like they decided to be like, well, let's do like a real kind of Friday night at Freddy, or 5 night. Why do I say Friday nights? Because I didn't grow up with it. 5 nights at Freddy's. I keep on doing that. Cecil's going to watch this and be like, dude, Robert the Wolfman's like, Davey, you're a goddamn joke. But it seems like is it sort of like all these killers sort of converge on these people in one sort of like, not a tournament, but sort of like a arena or something like that?
It's kind of like a dark web game. They're like competing for kills. Like whoever, like, I could say this is in the trailer. It's almost like this dark web thing where people are like betting on which killer is going to get the most like kills. They like bet money for it. Like, okay. Again, not spoiling. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, but there is like a scene towards the end of the movie where it's like the game is over and you see all these people like around the world who are like, they just won like $40,000 because they placed their bet was correct or whatever. It's a crazy movie. It feels very much so like if Terrifier 2, Cabin in the Woods, and I'm trying to think like what's another really good example of something else. It's got a goofy edge to it, which is really unexpected but fun. So it's got a little bit of humor to it. It's got a lot of different. The Shining. I think The Shining is another really good comparison piece. Definitely standing on the shoulders of giants a little bit with this one, but it feels like a lot of different big horror movies kind of melted down into one. A very like it's made by fans. You can tell. Like it's just made by fans of big horror movies. Has that vibe to it.
I love that because I think that like regardless of whether you say it or not, like every subsequent work is like an amalgamation of the things that you've collected in your head and the ideas. So everyone can walk out there and act like they have the most original idea. But really it's just about how you put an original spin on something that's relatively familiar, because your movie's probably not going to make money unless it's familiar, even something like Terrifier, like there is something that slasher fans can grab onto that they recognize. But then there's also, it's a different take on that. So I always talk about that like tilt of perspective. Like you know, you're looking at the same thing, you're just like looking at it this way instead. And yeah, I'm excited. I gotta check out Stream. You've been talking about it quite a bit. You went to check out the premiere, what, a couple weeks ago, 10 days
Yeah.
ago, something like that.
I became friends with the director maybe like 2 years ago, Michael Levy. He's actually in the first Terrifier. He's Will the Exterminator, gets his head chopped off.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so I became friends with him a couple years ago, and he actually invited me to the New York premiere. It was awesome. I got to meet so many cool people. I got a picture with like Bill Moseley. It was sick. But dude, it was so much fun, and it really, like, I'm not just saying it because I was invited to the premiere. It actually was like a really good movie, and it's clearly has some great people behind it as well. It was just like a big love fest, like, going there. Like, it was wonderful. It was just people like hugging, shaking hands, and saying like, I can't believe we finally did this. They filmed it through that horrible virus we had a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. I remember it was weird in 2020. You couldn't say that on YouTube, so I don't know if I can. Well, if I can now, but
here's the thing, Jake. No one cares about my channel, so you can say whatever you want here, because I've got no gravitas, no nothing. I'm not even at 1,000 subs, so YouTube doesn't even care. That's why I swear freely. But you could call it the vid if you want, whatever you feel comfortable with.
The vid. I like
the vid.
I like that. I like. There we go. Just to keep it safe. But yeah, no, I don't think. I have a lot of respect for these people. They made their film happen on, a relatively lower budget. It had a lower budget than Terrifier 2. And on top of that, they got to pull so many cool actors and some big surprises as well. There's one of the big surprises kind of leaked online. I don't know if it leaked is the right word. We had Variety talking a little bit about it. Don't look it up. Like, just go see this movie and have the blast of, I can't believe this fucking guy is in this movie. This is awesome. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I really did enjoy my time checking it out early. And if you can make it to the theater, do it. I'm talking to everybody here. So go check it out.
Yeah, and that's one of the crazy things about movies now is it's like it's like walking through a landmine field, with trying to avoid spoilers. And I had mentioned it before we brought you into the stream about, Deadpool and Wolverine, where I'm just like, at this point, because I tried to catch it on opening weekend, but there wasn't two seats together that weren't in the first two rows. And I'm not going to spend like $30 to have like a pain in the neck. Right. So,
right.
And then stuff is spoiled like the following Monday, Tuesday, where I'm just scrolling through YouTube, and people are spoiling it through their community posts. And I'm just like, well, sorry, dude, I've got to unsub because I'm seeing images that it's like, why are you doing this? Like, and it's interesting because I know people do it for clicks and all that kind of stuff. I know we feel like we gravitate towards that. That sort of brings it back to a little bit about what we were talking about with Crystal Lake, where it's like, the content creators feel like they've got to put the content out there for clicks, and but at the same time, you got to be like, stay true to yourself and talk about what you're passionate about and not feel like you're wasting people's time. You've brought that up about Scream 7 when people are like, hey, do you want to talk about Scream 7? I heard you talking about it even today, where you're like, I'm not going to talk till there's something real because I don't want to give you guys the bullshit. And that's something that I really respect about like the way you run things, but it is really tough to avoid those things. So I mean, when Variety's putting it out already, it's like, are they just banking that the people that read Variety aren't going to go to see Stream or won't go to see it unless they read that something's going to happen in the movie that's going to bait them to go see it?
It's a really weird situation, because I remember like I actually asked, I got to talk with Michael when we were at the premiere, and I was like, hey, can I like put out a video, to talk about this? I want to bring some attention to it. And I'm also just thankful that they, they invited me to this premiere. It was awesome. And I asked him that, and he's like, yeah, you can, he's like, you talk about the movie, whatever you want. Just don't spoil the cameo. And this was before the movie. I didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, oh, what cameo? And he whispered in my ear, and I'm just like, what? You know what I mean? I was like, no way. Like, that's the thing he was so like secretive of. He's like, don't say anything about it, man.
But did you tell him you just spoiled the cameo?
yeah. But like,
man.
But I also had no idea where it was coming in the movie, and then like when it hits you, you're just like, no way, like that's so cool. But I just like, it's weird because like they did announce it today, I think after the Variety article came out. So I don't know what the situation was. Maybe it's more pull to get people to come to the theater, because it's definitely a big deal.
That's what it seems like. Right?
I don't want to say why, but it's a very, very big deal because this person has not been in a horror movie in a very long time. And this is kind of their return to the return to physically being on screen. They've been doing voice roles for a long time. I'm just giving. I feel like I'm beating around the bush at this point.
No,
But
you're cool. You're cool.
I just thought it was so thought it was so dope, and to see that come out like before the first showing, which I think was like at 7 o'clock tonight or something, just kind of bummed me out. I'm just like, man, that was such a big surprise. I wish people could have gotten to experience that for the first time. So again, don't look it up. Just go to the theater to see this one, and just be blasted in the face with a performance from someone you likely know and love. So
Well, and I've kind of got like I've gotten to the point now in my life where so if I watch a trailer or a teaser and it has me interested, I'm done. Like once the bait on once the bait on the hook is my taste, I'm done because I already want to see your movie. So when you put out your next trailer, the only thing I would be doing is trying to chase clicks to like talk about it. And which my channel is like 13 months old. I've certainly, it's not like I'm thinking about it as far as chasing clicks. It's just like, well, let's cover like the news or whatever. And then I'm at the point now where I'm like, man, if the first trailer excites me, then I might as well just back off and just let the film speak for itself and let it stand on its own legs and not have anything ruined or spoiled beyond that. Because like, I love the first Joker trailer for Folie à Deux. And then I watched the second one and I'm like, well, this isn't bad, but it doesn't make me more excited. So it's kind of not good. I guess it's like that line from Tommy Boy where Brian Dennehy says like, in auto parts, you're either living or you're dying. There ain't no third direction. And I feel like that with like, being excited about a film project or a TV project or whatever. It's like, once you're excited, you might as well just like wait, because what if they don't raise your excitement level the next time? Or what if you find something out that you don't want to find out or have a joke spoiled? Even the Beetlejuice trailer, which I think is the second trailer, which is a little different because it's comedy, it does give away more of the jokes. And so I was like, all right, I'm done. Because I'd rather just, back in the day when I was a kid, and maybe when you were really little too, but when I was a kid, you would see the trailers in the theater. Maybe during a football game, you'd see like a 15-second movie spot on the TV, but you wouldn't get a real trailer on the TV like in the 80s and 90s. They didn't do like full trailers. So the jokes that could get spoiled or the moments that could get spoiled, like you don't remember them. Like you see it in the theater and then you watch the movie 9 months later and you don't even remember anything about the trailer other than, oh, that's coming out. Cool. I want to see that. But now we can sit there and watch it on YouTube. People dissect it, slow motion breakdowns. And that's all well and good, for the folks that create that kind of content. But for me, I'm like, all right, once I'm excited, that's it. I'll just let it speak for itself.
Trailers are just different nowadays. Like they purposefully show you stuff to, get you to the theater. And I think that's what a lot of this stream marketing is. But I will say I actually did a whole video on this maybe like a couple of months ago. I talked a little bit about, don't give too many hints. I'll shut up. I promise I'll shut up. No, it's really worth your time. Like go see this movie. But, I did a video a little while ago talking about the 28 Days Later trailer, like from, all the way back from the early thousands. It doesn't spoil anything about that movie. I mean, not a thing, but it creates the vibe of what's so scary about that film without showing you too much. It shows you a few of those like long wide shots of him like over the bridge and it's just so lonely, nothing's going on. There's all this trash all over the streets. But that's all it shows you. Like you couldn't even tell it's a zombie movie from the trailer. It's so well done, but there's a danger afoot because of the way that it's structured. That's what trailers need to do. They need to create the vibe. They don't need to tell you what's going to happen. Just create the atmosphere that you want to sink your audience into with the trailer. And you don't have to show us too much to do that. Like it's quite an easy feat to do. But not too many trailers do that nowadays. I totally agree. I wish we could go back to that, to that approach.
Yeah. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, everything's done in a boardroom now, like the way they write movies for the most part now. And maybe, one of the reasons why people love things like Terrifier is because it's not done this way. But this whole like kind of safe approach, which ends up like not pleasing anyone, it's sort of like a bunch of people like in a boardroom. They're like, well, we have to have something really exciting instead of thinking like, well, hey, this is actually like an IP that people have been loving for like 45 years. So maybe we just like like tease them, like a little cock tease teaser would be perfect, you know. Just give them a little taste of what they're gonna get and leave it at that. But yeah, it is certainly a lost art for sure, and that's really refreshing to hear, especially from somebody, you know, in a younger generation, that you're sort of like, you know, you feel the same way. You're like, I don't need that. And I think that maybe one of the reasons why they put out trailers that give away too much is because they do feel like they need to meet the audience more than halfway. But I think the people that are into it and invested are willing to go halfway, maybe even more, especially horror fans. I don't know if horror fans get, gosh, maybe like, I want to know your thoughts on this, Jake. Do horror fans get enough credit from the people that are putting together the films as far as like the more establishment, or, you know, those more recognizable IPs? Do they understand that like we kind of get it and we're the experts?
I think that the long legs marketing is a perfect testament to all of this. You know, this is a very confident marketing campaign. You can say whatever you want about the film, but that was the most confident marketing. Like it was like, this is going to be the scariest movie you've ever seen. Like, fuck you. That's what the marketing of that movie basically said. Yeah. And that's what I love about it. I think that too many movies market their movie and they're not directly saying this, but they're subconsciously telling you, please come and see our movie. And that's the problem. Mm-hmm. Like if you tease something as saying like, this is going to scare the crap out of you, which that's it. That's the vibe that the long legs marketing gave off. That's why that movie made $100 million, is because it's like, what is going on with this marketing is so scary. This is awesome. I have my gripes with the film, but I love the first two acts. Like, I mean, the first two acts are some of my favorite things from 2024 horror. I'll bitch about the third act all I want, but man, those first two acts are chef's kiss. I love them to death. And they really did deliver, I think, on a lot of elements from that marketing. And again, I just can't stress it enough. That's how you market a movie, not what The Strangers Chapter 1 just did, where it's 1,000 different clips of, you know, celebrities saying, go see this movie, it's awesome. That's begging, you know what I mean? That's practically getting on your knees and kissing the audience's ass. That's not what you should do to hype up your movie. You should say what your marketing should say is, you're missing out if you don't come see this. And by doing that, you have to be a little confident. You have to be steadfast in your product, and it doesn't feel like many movies nowadays are.
Yeah, and like not a lot of movies are willing to just be like, let's do something that feels viral, that feels like old school, that feels, you know, not that Longlegs is anything like the Blair Witch Project, but the way that they market it, like it was pretty similar as far as like these little, you know, a trailer that's just one still picture and the camera just zooms in on the picture of this family, you know, and you see that family more in that trailer than you do in the entire film, but it builds that sort of that vibe and that mood. Are you a fan? Have you seen Scrooged with Bill Murray, the Christmas film directed by Richard Donner? You know, when he shows his version of the trailer for Scrooged and he's like, I want them to be so afraid that they can't miss it. You know, because the Bobcat Goldthwait is like, oh, the drugs and everything and the shotgun. And it's like, but that's kind of it's exactly what you just described right there, is a trailer that makes people feel afraid to miss it because there's something, a little worm has been put in their brain and they need to know what the answer is to this unsettling thing that they just saw.
Well, and let's just go back through the conversation we've had tonight, Davey. Like, I hate to be so, I hate to be like just over the top like this, but
let's peel it back.
What from what I just said about Stream is making people want to go see it? Like me saying, hey, go buy tickets, or me saying that there's a cameo from somebody in there that's, you know, someone that you all really like. There's a mystery to that. There's like, I'm gonna be missing out if I don't go see this now. That's the hook. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Yeah. I can tell you to buy a ticket all you want, but what's really gonna get people to go to the theater is that hook. So that's what a lot of marketing today doesn't understand. Like, I mean, Strangers Chapter 1, man, they put out a lot, sure, and they made a little bit of money, but Longlegs made $100 million because of their fucking awesome and confident marketing campaign.
Yeah, and Longlegs probably didn't cost very much. I mean, I think one of the cool things about, I mean, it looks like other than paying Nicolas Cage, who knows? I haven't looked up what his pay cut is. I would imagine a guy like him I mean, we're in the middle of a cage-assance. Like the last 7 years, that's what I'm calling it, is a cage-assance, because he went from being the guy that took every role to get himself out of debt to being the guy that takes whatever crazy roles he wants because he's in a spot where he can express himself creatively. And for somebody as recognizable as Nicolas Cage, both his face and his voice, in that movie, to really not make you really think that it's Nicolas Cage, to give you that suspension of disbelief, which I still think is one of the most important things, especially when you're talking about movie stars. I don't want to think about the movie star. I want to just watch the movie and be immersed. And Nicolas Cage's performance and the makeup in that film like brought something totally new. I left that movie not knowing if I ever needed to see it again, but thinking that him and Micah Monroe deserve award nominations for their performances.
I think it's Micah Monroe's best performance in a horror movie. The more I think about it, I also think that Nick Cage is he's so hilarious. He's hilarious in that role. I think I loved it. I really did love those two. Anytime they were together, it was pure perfection. I don't know if I was crazy about the story. I don't know if I was crazy about the reveals. But the performances in Longlegs are top tier. Like some of the best from the year for sure.
Yeah, and like Osgood Perkins, it sort of reminds me of like Wes Anderson a little bit, the way he shoots a film. You know, sometimes the camera is just in this static spot and everything sort of moves around it. I think that's another one of those things that, like, to me felt immersive. Like, it's one of those things about, to take it back to It's Me, Billy, and what I'm seeing from It's Me, Billy Chapter 2 is the deliberation of like where you put the camera. The idea that you can tell that there's like thought behind that. And it's not like, well, we're just going to shoot this movie like we shoot every other movie. It's like, I love seeing those little, those fine points, those like nuanced things, like paid a little bit more attention to. And I think that's one of the things that can sort of separate films from one another. And yeah, I mean, Longlegs, it'll be interesting. I want to know how I feel after watching it a second time, because I woke up the next day thinking like, I need to watch that movie again now that I know how it all shakes out. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's interesting to see where the tastes lie, because, I really love Late Night with the Devil in March.
Yeah.
Again, another immersive film that a lot of people are like, it just wasn't scary. And I'm like, well, if you're an adult and you're getting scared by films, I'm sorry. If you're really legitimately getting scared, I'm sorry, because like maybe it makes you feel unsettled, but like when I tune into something like Late Night with the Devil, I want to feel, that unsettling feeling, and I want to feel sort of brought into that world. I'm not looking to be legitimately scared. And then I watched Abigail at a press screening, and the crowd was hooting and hollering, and I'm sitting there thinking like, man, this is like C plus, like B minus, like,
wow,
yeah. And like, I don't know what it is with me, because I feel the same way about Scream 5 and Scream 6. I think they're at the bottom of the franchise. I think they're just like, okay, paint by numbers, like, how to make a movie and make it successful, but what are you giving me that I haven't seen before? And can you finish your story? Because I felt like Abigail, and man, every time I talk about Abigail in a video, I love it. I always get a comment where someone's like, it's okay that they revealed she was a vampire in the trailer. And it's funny because I always say that. I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. But the fact that the first kill doesn't come until like 35 minutes into the movie, once you know that, I'm not okay with that. Because if you're going to give me that in the trailer, then let's get going and let's tell the story. The characters are really charming in Abigail. There's a lot of awesome interactions. I just felt like, man, they're sort of wasting some time at the end. A lot of reveals at the end that sort of felt like, oh man, you're changing it again. And then something like Longlegs that I totally loved. And it seems like, it's like, it's just interesting to see, like, the things that we all love, the things that get touted, and just how it all sort of shakes out in the end. And just to see our individual tastes, through all the movies that come out throughout the year, especially this summer, it's been a really fun mixed bag, I would say, for most people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, without a doubt. And just to comment on those last 3 Radio Silence movies real quick, I do think a lot of the stuff that they set up that were supposed to be surprises just ended up getting spoiled by the marketing in so many different ways. Like I remember watching Scream 5 and they set up like Stu's house to be this big reveal. And it's like, why? Like, we knew about that like when they wrapped filming, like from
Yeah.
set photos. Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about? Robert, I'm so sorry, man. Oh my God, stay away from social media, dear Lord.
Well, they knew that you were listening to us talking about it, so the algorithm was like, "Oh, Robert wants to know about the cameo."
No. Oh man,
Fucking
that's brutal.
computers.
Fucking computers, man. Google, damn it. Yeah, no, but it's so funny. I think an element from all three of their last couple of films got spoiled by the trailers just because,
Mm,
all of those movies are, yeah, they were trying to market them as like a little, they're like more blockbuster horror and all that.
yeah.
But again, it goes back to to the marketing conversation we were having. They just
Hmm.
want to put everything in the trailers to beg people to come to their movie. They're not like trying to create that atmosphere. They're not saying like you're gonna miss out if you're not seeing this. It's more so a begging act with a lot of the way that they marketed all three of those movies. It was a little too much. I think that Dermot Mulroney pretty much spoiled that he was the killer in Scream 6 before it even came out in a certain interview. So there was a lot of things that just from the marketing like kind of ruined some of the bigger surprises of all three of those movies. Like Abigail, that yeah, they present it as a big twist when she's
Hmm.
when she's confirmed to be a vampire, and it's just like why? Why would they do it that way? But I think that's the marketing fault, the marketing's people's faults, not so much the directors, if that makes
Sure.
sense. So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my one defense that I guess
Yeah.
I'll throw up about
And
that.
and clearly the directors don't get, they don't have final cut on a trailer. Like, I'm not under that guise as well, but I know that maybe some people think, oh, well, the director would like be able to sit in and have a say, and it's like, nah, probably not, unfortunately. I would, Abigail, the parts that I really loved reminded me of House on a Haunted Hill, 1999. Having that ragtag group stuck in a house together reminded me a lot of that film. I
Yeah.
loved a lot of the gore moments reminded me of like From Dusk Till Dawn and Evil Dead, like these like blood explosions and really fun stuff. I don't know what it is. I guess with Radio Silence, they just never stick the landing for me. But at the same time, I do have to say this is like, I'm happy that they're successful. And my opinion, like, has no bearing on whether those guys are going to get another job because their movies make money. And so it's great for the genre. It's like, I love seeing successful people or seeing artistic, creative people be successful, regardless of whether or not like I'm gung ho about what they're doing, because I think that really is important. And it elevates the whole thing. Like the rising tide raises all ships. So it brings other people into the fray. And I would rather have more horror than not. And then we all get something we like. I think 2024 has been a banger year for horror, not just because the movies have been really good, but because, man, think about it. Think about the variety of horror we've gotten this year. It's been such an awesome mix. We're not even done yet. Like we're getting Terrifier 3, we're getting Nosferatu, we're getting It's Me, Billy Chapter 2. Like, so we're not even finished. And there's a flavor for everyone. The buffet is full. Line up and eat as much as you want.
It's definitely been one of the most diverse years, without a doubt. I mean, like, even some of the movies I wasn't crazy about, I can totally see other people being like in love with them. The First Omen is one like that personally just didn't work for me, but I know that some people are like over the moon about it. They're like top 10 of
Yeah.
the year, like maybe favorite horror of the year from some folks. That's awesome in my opinion. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
like I don't know. I think so many people are like just so set in their ways to the point where they're like, well, this sucked. So if it didn't work for me, it worked for nobody. What's up, fellas?
Yeah.
That's not how I think. I don't know. I totally see why that would have worked for some people, especially fans of like Possession or like some of those weirder, older, crazier horror movies that are that chaotic. I can totally see people digging that one, for those reasons. And same with Longlegs. Like if you're a huge fan of Silence of the Lambs, just a huge fan of Nick Cage in general. Oh my God, you're gonna love that movie. Like it's so
Yeah.
much fun. So I love that. I really do love that. 2024 especially has something for everybody in this realm of horror.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is one of those things where, maybe sometimes we can get a little excitable about our feelings, but again, it's like to be able to articulate it, to be able to explain why you don't like something. I think that's the most important thing. Like to say like something shit is like that's, like
That's not
I
fair.
think I think it's one of those things where it's like, sure, we should all have like the opinions that we have, but let's respect like not only the art form, but let's respect each other enough to be able to articulate it the best way we can. and not just like take, to me, sort of like saying something's the best or the worst is sort of like a chicken shit way out. It's like,
Right.
and everyone, it seems like everything becomes more divisive and things become like things that shouldn't be political sort of feel like they're that way anyway. It's totally bizarre. And you brought up the First Omen, and I've always been one of those people where like religious possession movies, I don't know what it is. I don't think they're bad. I'm just not as interested in them as I am in just like random demonic possession films like The Evil Dead. And we had an Evil Dead film in 2023. We had Rise by Lee Cronin, which certainly had some elements that I really, really enjoyed. I felt like it sort of walked up to the edge without really diving off the cliff. And I kind of wanted it to see it dive off the cliff, because one thing I've learned about being an Evil Dead fan for, a really long time at this point is that each film seems to sort of take it a little bit further. And I really wanted Rise to take it a little bit further. And I felt like they got to that point and sort of pulled back, especially compared to the 2013 Fede Alvarez film. And everyone's talking about Fede these days. I mean, he seems to understand IPs like no one else, but we're getting 2 new Evil Dead films that are in pre-production right now. The other day on your stream, I had mentioned like I want to see this like North African like colonial era, like 1700s, late 1600s. Like it would be really cool just to see the Book of the Dead in a different part of the world at a different time. And you had mentioned a Western Evil Dead, which I think is an awesome idea. Let's talk some Evil Dead. What do you say?
This is the franchise I would love to make a movie in. Like, I just think there's so much potential for Evil Dead, man. And like we're talking about, there's so much potential to do period pieces here. There's potential to do, just future continuations, bring back past characters, maybe even. There's so much you can do. Like, I'm honestly here for 2 more Evil Dead movies, because I feel like you can do 2 more. You can do 4 more Evil Dead movies. Like, this is an idea that the last 2 movies especially approved, that you can really apply it to any situation and it turns it into just pure horror. I was, Rise is definitely a bit of a step down from 2013 Evil Dead. I do agree. I still really enjoyed it though, and especially just for the concept alone. Like, you're dealing with such different characters than the rest of this franchise, and yet it still in a lot of ways works. It might not be the best way to set up the Necronomicon, right? Like, we find it in like an earthquake happens and this guy jumps in there. Like, what? I don't know about that, but it's a crazy way to get there for sure. But I still just think this situation of, you're in this high-rise apartment and we're doing the Necronomicon, we're out of the cabin now. That's wild. Yeah. But we can also do this in medieval medieval times. I love that. I love that about this franchise. I've always thought that a Western Evil Dead though would be sweet. That's personally what I would want to do if I ever get. I love old school spaghetti westerns too. I don't know if I don't think I've ever brought that up like on YouTube. I'm going to be honest. No one wants to talk about that, right? But
that's going to be the next live stream. It's going to be the next live stream is Jake talking about spaghetti westerns, Ennio Morricone soundtracks.
Well, they're so dramatic and they lend themselves to these like kind of stories that I really like to see in horror too. You know what I mean? These are lawless, like time periods here that you can play around with. So that's got to be an element of it, right? And to apply that now to Evil Dead, isolation and lawlessness, which are 2 very scary elements put together. Like I feel like there should be more Western horror. You know what I mean? Like, why is there not? It just lends itself to that concept. Sounds like a terrifying time period. So I don't know. I would love to see just the Book of the Dead pop up in some like dusty Western town where there's just no escape. It has like the Thing feel, but like opposed to Antarctica, it's just like this middle of nowhere desert town. I feel like you could do something very similar to that there.
Yeah, there was a couple months ago or something. I was like, man, I want to do an Evil Dead film. I said that pretty much the same thing. I was like, I want a Western. And I want it to be like, because Sam Raimi did The Quick and the Dead with like Sharon Stone and Leo and Gene Hackman. I was like, The Quick and the Evil Dead.
There you go.
It just takes place over one night in this tiny little dusty town, right? And you just see like 12 hours of this, example of the Evil Dead, of a Deadite coming in. And my buddy Vincent DeSanti was like, hey, can I direct? And I'm like, Absolutely. Like, let's work on that together. Because I think that is a really fun idea. It's a really cool concept. And the Evil Dead really, the best thing about the Evil Dead is the same guys that created the original films. They're still the rights holders. They understand that film is something that evolves. They're willing to give, they see things in younger filmmakers and they want to give them chances. And they know who to pick, right? It's sort of like, I don't know if you're a sports guy, but it's like a GM in a draft, like picking the right, like, oh, I need a good quarterback. Like, I need to, like, what are the things that I see that I know can be success for my franchise for the next 10 years? And I think that, like, Sam Raimi, Rob Tapert, and Bruce Campbell are really good at picking those people, really good at being involved, but also picking people that they know they can take their hands off of and just let them work, And it's one of those things. I think the best thing that Evil Dead Rise did is there's that line on the record about there being 3 volumes of the book. That's the best thing because it built this whole thing into the lore where now Ash, Mia, and everybody from Evil Dead Rise all exist in the same universe. And now, if you want to tell stories from different parts of the world and different times, all you need is one of those books to exist. So we could see, they're putting 2 together right now. We could see simultaneous. I mean, it's an anthology series pretty much, other than the first 3 films, really. So it is interesting to think about all the places they could take it. I was even thinking, like, one of them on one of Columbus's ships. I want to see a movie where the Book of the Dead is on the Santa Maria, the Pinta, or the Nina. And then you could do a follow-up where there's a Native American Evil Dead story. Like, maybe there's a couple tribes that are, there's been conflicts all throughout human history. So maybe you just, like, play in that, sandbox of putting the Book of the Dead in one of those. Maybe one group is using it as a weapon against the other. And, I don't know. It just seems like we could have tons of these movies. This is one of those, franchises that I'll take all you got. I don't know.
And, you were talking about how this is just one of the most consistent franchises in horror.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. There is, out of all 5 of these movies, there is something for every horror fan out there. I mean, there is, the body horror of Fede's movie. You get a little bit of that in the Lee Cronin film, but again, it is maybe a little more like studio feeling. Then you have, like, the indie roots, you know what I mean? There's a slapstick element to Evil Dead 2, and then there's a full-blown comedy film right in the middle, which is crazy. There's truly no other just franchise alone that's like this. Like, there's so many different characters and fun moments that you can pull. It's also just one of the most chaotic franchises ever. I mean, who's the main character of the Evil Dead franchise? It's really the Book of the Dead. That's really the only through line, which is crazy to me. I mean, even Ash's story in between 1, 2, and Darkness is changed every single time, you know, to accommodate the new story they're trying to tell. But in a way, I kind of love that because it allows every single movie out of all 5 of those to just let it be their own damn thing.
Yeah. The first 3 movies are all different genres, which is great. Like, you get, and it's almost like a total spectrum within the first 3. You get your horror, you get your in between horror and comedy, and then you get your comedy, and it's like, it all sort of makes sense in a way. It's like this natural progression. It all feels like it's cohesive and everything. And they've been able to always bring that element. Even the Ash versus Evil Dead show had a little bit of that Evil Dead 2 feel. It maybe leaned a little more into the gore. Like, my favorite is the original, and my second favorite is the Fede Alvarez reboot.
Hell yeah.
Because I just like the serious side, I guess. Like, I want all the blood and all the discomfort and everything. And maybe that's why I was a little let down with Rise. But I do think they did a great job. It's all about what they, working with what you got, and Evil Dead Rise is no slouch. There's not a bad movie in the whole franchise, and that's a difficult thing to say when it comes to horror.
Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you, man. My 2 favorites are the original and the 2013 film. I think there's some of my favorite Those two in particular, if I have like a top 10 list of favorite horror movies of all time, those are both on that list. I do really appreciate two, Army of Darkness and Rise, though, man. I mean, they're really fun movies. I
Yeah.
mean, I think one of the best, horror comedies of all time is Army of Darkness. Oh my God. I could
Yeah.
put that on any time and have a great time with it, but it is a totally different vibe than the other movies. I mean, we have like animated skeletons running around attacking Ash. That's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. What? That's the same franchise? I can't name another franchise that that has so many different elements and things you can love about it. I don't know. I there's really no other franchise like Evil Dead. It's just so special.
Yeah, and even like you see how it influenced other films. Like when I watch something like Dead Alive, I'm like, well, damn. Like that,
Yeah.
like you can tell. And then reading that Peter Jackson, like when he put together Bad Taste, it was, the original Evil Dead was the inspiration for just like, hey, if you have to film a movie on your weekends and it takes like a year and a half or 2 years to make it, then so be it. Like live your dream. And then that's what he did with Bad Taste, which is, very experimental and odd and everything. But for his next movie to be something as great as Dead Alive, which to me is still one of my favorite zombie movies of all time and one of my favorite horror comedies. Like I have a total blast watching that movie. I just think like this wouldn't exist without the Evil Dead. I mean, you could go even further. You could say that like, horror comedy in general might not have existed without Evil Dead. Like, would we have gotten Return of the Living Dead, Shaun of the Dead and all that kind of stuff if it weren't for these two things sort of coming together so perfectly?
Oh yeah. Oh man, Return of the Living Dead. God, that's another franchise that I would love. I know there's been talk of a new movie in that franchise. But there's something about those first two that I just think is so special. Like that's another horror comedy that works so well for me because it's very much so rooted in horror, but it has these hilarious moments as well.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I mean, send more paramedics and shit. That's great. But then it's also kind of terrifying a little bit too. You have this sequence where they capture one of the zombies and they're talking to it, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in so much pain because I'm dead, and the only thing that like I'm totally paraphrasing, but the only thing that alleviates that is like eating brains." And it's ridiculous. But there's also kind of a dark side to that. It's like, think about that situation. It's like, it almost makes you sympathetic for zombies. Before that, I can't think of another movie that makes me feel that way. It's really interesting. I don't know. It's a thought-provoking, hilarious, and disgusting film all the way around. I love it. I don't know. Return of the Living Dead, that's a really special flick.
Well, and it's really cool too that it came from the same that the writer of that film wrote Night of the Living Dead with George Romero. So they both sort of, Romero went in his serious route, and then you've got I always forget the other writer's name. I don't know why I forget it. Probably because it's not George Romero. But he went and sort of created his own little world, and it's like it's pretty cool that we see the films are sort of connected in a way. I mean, clearly they're making reference to Night of the Living Dead in the first film. And man, the performances are great. I mean, Clu Gulager, I'll take all the Clu Gulager you got. I just love him so much. And of course, Tom Matthews, Miguel Nunez Jr. Love me some Miguel Nunez Jr. And I'm not going to complain too much about Linnea Quigley. I won't complain too much. Yeah, man, Evil Dead, that's one of those things I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. I really like that they're picking like up and coming budding filmmakers. They're not relying on, nowadays when everyone brings up a franchise, it's like, have Mike Flanagan do it. Like he'll just do everything. Like Robert Eggers and like all these guys are great, but also they're sort of like, they're sort of doing their thing because they've already proven themselves. So it's almost like, well, who's next? Those guys are already the starters on the field. Like who's on the bench that's been like putting in the reps and looks like they've got what it takes. And I think that that's one of the things that the, production team on Evil Dead, they've got an eye for that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go there.
Have you seen the films from those guys that got selected to do the next two Evil Deads?
I still need to see. Infested is one of them, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I still need to see that one. I've not yet seen it.
I think, I watched that film because I was so curious. I'm like, what is this all about? Is this guy, ready to take on such a big franchise?
Hmm.
It's got the tension. It might not be, it's not a perfect film by any means, but dear God, I mean, it is, it's terrifying. Like he's definitely going to have that scary element that I think the original and especially Fede's movie
Hmm.
has done so well. He's going to capture that for sure. I don't know so much about the gore yet. I'm not 100% on his take on that, but oh my God, the tension building in that movie is so well done. Like
Nice.
I see what Sam Raimi sees in him.
Yeah, and hopefully they just step in and they're like, "Hey, this is what we're doing with the gore. Like, you figure out everything else." I think one thing that like Fede did really well, and you sort of touched on it as far as like finding the Book of the Dead in Rise, that it didn't really track like storytelling wise. I think one of the great things that Fede did in the 2013. I mean, first of all, it looks modern, but there's no talk of cell phones. That's great. I love when you don't have cell phones in a horror movie
Yeah.
because it just helps you sort of dive in and forget. I do think it's brilliant that they had Mia, recovering. So there's a reason why they're in isolation to help their friend. And is it Eric that opens up the book? He's a teacher. He's like he kind of feel like he's one of those guys that's like, oh, the religious stuff is just like folklore and all that. And he's this inquisitive intellectual. So he's curious and he's going to dive in. There's a reason why he rips the plastic off and takes the barbed wire off. And like, he's willing to take that dive because he legitimately is like, I just don't really believe in this kind of stuff. So I do think the motivation's set up really well in something like what Fede did. And hopefully moving forward, they kind of keep that going where it feels a little more, it just resonates a little bit smoother for folks.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. I want to see that. I kind of want to see that come back. I do really like how experimental Evil Dead rises, but yeah, again, it does lead to some questionable motivations, right? There's some weirdness of just simply getting the Book of the Dead up a few floors. I love this take as well,
Yeah.
Damien
Yep.
Rugna. He was
Hmm.
excellent. When Evil Lurks is such an underrated foreign film that not enough people are talking about, I don't think.
Yeah, I think when evil lurks, like when I try to describe it to people that are in the horror crowd, I'm like, imagine if Christopher Nolan did an Evil Dead film because it feels like it's in the real world. They're trying to connect it with something real, but it is horrific. I felt like one of the best things that they did in that movie is like the shot blocking, where you put the camera in a spot to where without using an effect, you're able to reveal something shocking just by the movement of a camera or the movement of an actor, which I thought was just so creative. And you just don't see it enough. You see jump scares and stuff, but this is like just a little more artistic, maybe something a little bit more for somebody that has like a little more refined taste. I don't know. But yeah, when evil lurks, holy shit. Like some of the best acting I've ever seen in a film as well. Like it felt real. I guess that's all I'll say about the acting there. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen When Evil Lurks, man, I can't wait to see what he does next because this guy is something else. I know he wants to do Friday the 13th because I saw him
Ooh,
on
okay.
he was on Flet's Movies and Pop Culture 13, and every time it got brought up of what do you want to make, he's like, Friday the 13th is my favorite, and I would love to make a Friday the 13th film. And
Oh, hell
so
yeah.
that might be a fun kind of switcheroo, like let's not keep him, let's not typecast him as a director just because When Evil Lurks has those vibes. It might be kind of fun to see him do something like that. Whereas I would love to see somebody like Damien Leone do Evil Dead instead of another slasher. I would like to see him take that love of gore and bring it to the Evil Dead, which is to me the celebration of gore.
Oh my God, there's so much I can jump off right there. Yeah, dude, Damien Leone, I do want to see what else he's got up his sleeve. I think he's a great director when it comes to Terrifier, but I don't know what else. Erica, thanks for hanging out with us. Really appreciate you. I don't know what else he's got going on. What else has he got up his sleeve? We hear that he's working on this project with Sam Raimi, interestingly enough, at Ghost House Pictures.
Mm.
So it's some kind of original concept from him, something new. And I really do hope it is something other than a slasher. I would love to see him tackle Friday the 13th. He's put that word out there a few times now.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I would love to see him do something like The Evil Dead. Or I've actually suggested recently, it would be so cool to see him do a VHS segment. I don't know if you're a
Oh
big
yeah.
fan of that franchise, but
Yeah.
just found footage, it's like, whoa, like what would he do with that? You know what I mean? What would that end up becoming? I would be very
Yeah.
interested to see.
Yeah, at this point it would just be, yeah, it would be great to see, like, I love, watching people stretch, seeing what they can take on next. Like, we know what you're comfortable with. How are you going to grow as an artist? I'm always interested in seeing artists grow and seeing them be able to like take their talents and maybe just push it in a little bit of a different direction and see how they respond. I mean, clearly he's amazing at practical effects. Now, it might be kind of fun to see him do something that's a little more subdued that still has great practical effects. I mean, the guy's got skill. He doesn't need to just do like the wild, outlandish Terrifier stuff. So, yeah, I'm all for it. I think he's got the chops for sure. I am interested in if he did a Friday the 13th, like, would he like kind of, bring it back a little bit, or would he just sort of go full bore? It is interesting because it's never really been the Friday the 13th thing to be overly gory. But I guess I wouldn't be opposed to it.
There's a lot less tricks up his sleeve with Jason than there is with Art. You know what I mean? Art the Clown, he doesn't even have to be killing anybody to be so entertaining. You know what I mean? David Howard Thornton's doing a lot of the work there. So with Jason, who's this just, faceless, I'm just gonna walk up to somebody and kill them, that's the extent of it. How do you make that fresh? How do you make that your own thing, your own interpretation? What would Damien add to that? I almost feel like, I've heard some people say like, oh, he should do the next Nightmare on Elm Street. I know exactly what to expect if Damien Leone were attached to a new Nightmare on Elm Street film. It would be Terrifier 2 again. It would be exactly that, because you're dealing, Art the Clown is just silent Freddy Krueger. That's all it is. I love it. But it is just he's Freddy Krueger and you can't talk. That's it. If Damien were to do that franchise, I know exactly where it's going. Friday the 13th is a different animal, though. What does that become? How do you make that interesting with the tools that he has? It's definitely a gorier film. I totally agree there. But does he try to take on a new element to Jason? Does he try to reinvent the character? That's what I would be really interested in seeing the most from that.
Yeah, I guess maybe you just show. Yeah, if they can set the lore right, maybe you got a younger Jason in there, somebody a little bit more virile. I don't know. That is a tough one. And I mean, if he did Nightmare, he'd probably just bring in David Howard Thornton to play Freddy, which probably wouldn't be the worst thing ever, right?
I don't know how that.
Yeah, I don't know how old David Howard Thornton is, but I would imagine he could do a good run.
Oh yeah.
I keep on talking about this actor Jared Bankins, who was in the Twisted Metal TV show. And when I watched that show, he is Thomas Hayden Church's like main lackey in the first. Have you seen that show?
A little bit of it. I didn't finish it.
So he's in the first few episodes. His character doesn't make it all the way through the first season. Spoiler alert. But man, the way that he just like takes joy out of the torture that he puts there's a brother and sister character in the first few episodes of that show. And his character is just like, he's sort of like hunting them down and just like putting them through it. And I was like, man, this guy is like, he's got the joy that Freddy has in torturing people. Then I like looked him up. I'm like, oh, he's 36. Oh, well, shit. Robert Englund was 36 when they started production of Nightmare on Elm Street. And then I started thinking he's not like a household name. I think that's really important for somebody like Freddy. Like Robert became a star because of Freddy. He was in V before Freddy. That was like the only thing really that he had under his belt. Like, I love V, but I love even more that he became a star because of the character that he played. So I also think when people say Bill Skarsgård, to me, that's the Mike Flanagan of horror casting. It's just the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. Like, nothing against Bill Skarsgård. He's great, but it's like, guys, there are awesome entertainers out there and great performers out there that could really help you suspend that disbelief and give them a shot at some greatness as well. And I think like one of the biggest missteps the 2010 Nightmare had is that they cast, an Academy Award winning actor as Freddy. And it just like, there's a whole bunch of problems with that movie. Obviously, like, I don't think Freddy's scary at all, which is bizarre because it seems like they're really trying to make him scary. I just wasn't feeling it. But I think that maybe going with somebody that's like, late 30s that can do it for a good 10, 15 years, 5 movies if you write them well. I don't know.
Well, why does that first Nightmare work so well? It's because, you know, you have Robert Englund, who's such a hungry actor right there. He's trying to prove himself. You know, you can kind of feel him dip a little bit as the movies go on. But man, that first movie, he has given it his all, dude. He is so excited when he's cutting off his fingers and stuff. He's losing his mind. It's awesome. I mean, dude, Freddy Krueger jumping through a door, like the glass door or whatever, that's ridiculous. That's what we need from a new Freddy performance. Is we need that energy. We need that excitement of bringing this character back to life. You can't just put anybody in that role. That's why people are so protective of it. That's why people are saying that only Robert can play it. I've suggested a few people. I think that honestly, I think your choice is maybe even the best. But I've suggested. I'm a huge Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan. I just love it.
Me too. I love it. Well, you're the Rat King, so you know all about it.
Exactly. Tell me that Glenn Howerton wouldn't do a good Freddy Krueger. And I say this because I mean Dennis Reynolds is a fucking sociopath.
Psycho. Yeah. he's the most nuts out of all of them. They're all bad people, but he's the worst.
yeah, and I think if you twist that character a little bit and make it more excitable, like maybe even more, you know, just a little more excited about killing, more like ready to admit it, like how Freddy Krueger is. That character is Freddy Krueger. Just put the makeup on him and he's ready to go. I would love to see that. He might not be, you know, young enough, but man, I would, I don't know. I think that would be crazy. That would really work for me.
Yeah, those guys, it's funny. They've been going on so long. We still think of them because I rewatch shows. So you always think of them as like early 20s, but it's like, no, they're like 50 now. Like all these guys are like 50 in this show. But I do think Glenn is a really, really powerful actor. Like I think he's probably got the best chops out of the people on that show for sure, as far as range goes. And absolutely, you're right. Like, you know, Dennis might be the Scranton Strangler from The Office, like as far as we know. They're, you know, because they talk about Coginos in both shows. There is a concept that maybe that's the next great horror movie, is finally blending The Office with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and have Dennis be a straight up killer. I love that episode where they're going to pretend like he and Dee are going to pretend like they're going to kill the waitress. And Dennis sort of gets confused. Like he thinks they really are. And then he's like, oh, sorry. I just sort of got confused. Like he was actually excited to like commit the act. And of course, there's the implication.
Oh my God, dude. That clip's ridiculous. I mean, it's hard to watch. Like, it's almost like, are you serious right now? That's crazy, man. He is I don't know. He's just so crazy on that show. So it feels effortless, you know? I could totally see him taking on just some kind of slasher role at some point in his career. Would love to see that.
Yeah. Hey, he should be in the new Scream. Nothing wrong with 50, Jamie. It just might be too old to start playing Freddy Krueger. That's my only thing. Just too old to start, you know?
Have you heard that new real quick? I know we're going on 2 hours now, but have you heard that new quote from Heather Langenkamp about how Robert Englund like might be down to play the character again, might have had a change of heart?
I did see that, and all I can think of is like, please let it be for Dylan's New Nightmare 2.
Hell yeah.
Because I know that Cecil's working on something that brings like everything together. Like like he's working on a couple scripts just depending on what happens, but he wants to bring in Heather and Robert. Like he wants to make like, let's make it what does Randy say in Scream? Make this shit's legit, something like that.
Yeah.
And no better way for Robert to do it than to jump back into the meta world, because then the age thing, you don't have to de-age, you can play it straight. What do you think?
I think that would rock. That would be a really interesting way just get some energy back in this franchise. There's so much there's so many people who are just hyped up about Friday the 13th. I think because of Womp Stomp. It would be cool to get a little bit of juice in the Freddy caboose. That was supposed to sound grosser than it didn't. I fucked it up.
It sounds gross and hot at the same time, which is my favorite. So thank you.
That's the best mix, man. That's
juice in the caboose. Oh, you young whippersnappers and your damn phrases. I'm gonna write that one down. Juice in the caboose.
Dear God.
The juice is loose, babe.
Oh my God, I'm excited for that one too.
I'm literally writing it down.
There you go.
So let's bring it even more around. I've seen a couple times here. Let's see here. Noah has mentioned Scream 7. What about Scream 7 taking like a meta thing and being, you know, everyone talks about wanting to bring Stu back. Well, what if you just get to bring Matthew back and Matthew's Matthew, and you have a killer that's like, let's just ultra meta it up, and a ghost face that's tired of these damn movies being made and is just going to start killing the performers.
You know, man, I mean, that sounds better than whatever they're probably going to do. I just want, like, I want to bring the meta back to Scream. I think if there's really anything I could change about 5 and 6, it's just I think they felt a little too by the books in terms of like what the killers have to be here and there. And I want to get back to these like wild swings. Like I think Mickey from part 2 is such a swing. Like it's such a like, what do you mean he's trying to do that? Like that's wild to me. I want to get back to that. I wish we could get a killer who's just like doing this like ridiculous fuck shit for like the most ridiculous reason. I don't want to see another Prescott family member pop up and be like, I'm Ghostface.
Sure.
I'm your second cousin that you haven't thought about in like 30 years. I don't care. Like, I don't care, man. If that's where they end up going with it, my interest in Scream has all but died. So I just hope that we get a killer that, yeah, I mean, dude, something like that would rock. Like, just like these movies have got to stop, you know? Like, that's Scream, you know?
Somebody that's like some Twitter warrior, because I mean, man, the Twitter Scream is like about as toxic as it gets. Like when people are like, if Melissa Barrera isn't in every movie, I'm mad at that movie all of a sudden. And it's like, whoa. Like, she just can't be in every movie. Like, we all love Melissa Barrera, okay? But, it's like, let's take a step back. These are just movies. But, basically where I'm at is I want to see that ultra meta Scream, or I want to see a two-parter where we don't know who the killer is at the end of Scream 7, because what would create better marketing and better content creation, which again, we pretty much established during our chat here, Jake, that the production companies, whether or not they're going to admit it, they sort of rely on the fans and rely on content creators to sort of push their news. Man, can you imagine Scream 7 and 8 and Scream 7 ends on a cliffhanger, and just all the publicity and all the hype of like, who is it? Trying to figure out the clues, people putting together videos, people basically doing the advertising for Spyglass for Scream 8. And then you would have like, just do a little two-parter. You can sort of cap the series at that point, and have a grand finale. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. One of those two ideas.
I remember when Scream 5 and 6 were, all this hype where it was building for these movies. People were like so hyped up. I just remember all these all these horror channels popped up in the early 2020s. I'm mine is one of them. And it was all because of like how hyped up people were about these movies. There was thousands of theories coming from like all over the place about like what was going to happen, what's going to happen in this reinvention. And to do something like that is just like the next step. You know what I mean? Like that's not only does it reinvent and refresh this franchise that needs it maybe more than any horror franchise that's still long running. Oh my God. But again, it lends itself to that creativity, that hype building in your mind. I think the reason that people were so excited about these movies was because of a lot of that content creation, coming from myself and many other horror content creators out there, just pitching these wild theories. Like it really made you feel like anything could happen in these new movies. I want to get back to that. I feel like Scream is almost a little expected now after 5 and 6. 5, I felt like there were some explosions which were really fun, but 6 pulled its punches a bit. And if we can get that back in 7, which I don't know if we're on track to do that or not, I would love to get this franchise back to, I have no idea what the fuck they're gonna do next. If we can get back to that, Scream is alive again.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting, because I think one of the reasons, other than getting paid well enough, obviously that brought Nev back, but I really do think, like, I would not be surprised, when the news came out of her coming back and then Kevin Williamson coming in, I was like, I would put like my left nut, I would bet that she went in and said, I want Kevin to direct this movie. It's not just about the money. Like, I need this, and then you're bringing Kevin in. Because I'm not doing this with a stranger. Like, we're bringing in somebody that I know, and then later on, she talked like that they had in the 90s they had talked about doing a Scream movie together and how much fun it would be if Kevin got to direct. And I think Teaching Mrs. Tingle was like the last movie he ever directed. And And so it's been a while for him, but man, if there's any franchise that's tailor-made for him, it's Scream. And really, with a good crew around him, he can't really mess it up. If you rely on your crew, you talk to your director of photography, all that kind of stuff, the movie's going to look great, all that. So really, it's about him coming in, taking a fresh look at the story, doing his rewrites if he has to, and being able to communicate with the actors. So, I'm hopeful for Scream 7. I know a lot of people, I mean, even, let's see here, even Raymond says, no more Scream for me unless Melissa and Jenna come back. But, her character, like that's Sam's arc is all done at the end of Scream 6. A lot of people, I know there's still some confusion about what happened with her and Spyglass, but really she was only contracted for 2 films. So she was never fired. She was just never given a new contract to come back for more films. So they knew full and well when they did part 6 that this could be the end. Maybe we could bring her back, but let's write it in a way where she's got some sort of closure. So, don't worry. She's going to come back in like 10 or 15 years because the legacy sequels will never die because Halloween 2018 made $1 gazillion.
I think it's really funny. We do have some people talking about, they're like, oh, Scream 7's going to be the last one. They're going to close it out. And I'm like, no, they're not. Oh my God, there's going to be 12 of these things, dude. They're never going to stop making Scream. It's got the name, you know what I mean? When it's a very, very popular horror IP, especially. This is just going to keep a money train rolling for a very long time, I think.
Yeah, they'll probably, they'll either close it out or in 7 or 8, and then you can always reboot it.
And
I think
they will.
Yeah, I mean, and Scream 5 was sort of a reboot, like you were talking about. Scream 5 just had a fresh, new sort of vibe for a different generation. I even think, I love Scream 4. I'm a big Scream 4 apologist. It's my second favorite in the franchise. I think what Wes did with that is actually pretty remarkable because he stepped in years after the 3rd film and was like, you know what? Like he looked around the landscape and he's like, I'm an old cat. I've been doing this for a long time. But I'm going to make a movie that's modern. I'm not going to give them like this is the way we used to make horror movies. Like, no, like you get blood and guts all over the place in Scream 4. And I think it's really cool that it's still Wes Craven that did that, whereas I think in 5 and 6, some of the kills, I don't know, like 5 and 6, like, I don't think they're bad, but it's just like, they're not good. I'm in this weird spot with 5 and 6. And I also predicted the killers in Scream 5, which I had never been able to do. But within the first 10 minutes, I was like, oh, shit. This is somewhat obvious here.
I'm so with you on 4, though. Like, I think 4 is without a doubt the best sequel. I really do enjoy all 6 of them personally. Like, I have a very fun time with all of them across the board. But man, 4, there's something special about it. I think it might like Jill is the best killer reveal maybe in the whole franchise.
What a performance.
Man.
Emma Roberts, I've said this before on the channel. She could have just done whatever. Like her aunt is Julia Roberts. Her dad is Eric Roberts. She could have had a career doing whatever she wanted. Clearly she's a horror fan because it's not just Scream that she's done. She's been in a whole bunch of horror properties. But man, she commits to that role. And like, it's kind of what I was saying about like Pattinson and even like seeing Melissa Barrera become like, better and better as an actress. When you see somebody like Emma Roberts that could have just been in like Disney movies forever, but you see her like, throwing herself into the table and running into the wall, you're just like, all right, like this is great. This is exactly what I want from this kind of character here.
It worked so well for me. I again, 5 and 6 are fun. I think they have their moments. Really the only good like killer reveal though, I think is Amber's in 5. Like that's the only one that I'm like, okay, that was fucking crazy. The rest of these, I don't know, man. That was cool. I think the way that they did it was like really inventive and different with just the gun, it's just like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. But the rest, I don't know, the rest of them. Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, that was like, that blew my mind. Richie, I saw coming from a mile away. I was just like, dude, yeah, of course you're fucking Jack Quaid. Of course you're the killer, bro. What? Yeah. But yeah, those movies, I still have fun with them. I really do like the characters. I know some people don't, and that's totally fine. But I still have a good time with them. I think there's no bad Scream yet. Let's hope it. I hope it stays that way, but we'll see. We'll see what's up.
And I think the first 2/3 of part 6 was like, I was totally on board. Like, I thought the first 2/3 of 6 was better than part 5. And man, they really, once the killer reveal happened, all I could think about was how I felt like they pulled the rug out from under us. And I was like kind of pissed off. So now I'm not even thinking about your movie. Probably the way a lot of people feel about Halloween Ends, where it's like, well, now I'm not even thinking about the art. I'm just thinking about like, well, this is like so dumb right now. And maybe I'm just ready for a killer to do the reveal and not start acting like a cartoon character. Because it seems like all of them do that. I mean, and except for the first, honestly, except for the first movie, they all kind of act like cartoon characters to a degree. But I do love what you said about Mickey, because I think my favorite line in the franchise is "surprise cameo just for you." Like the most like stoner surfer voice I've ever heard in my life. Like, I know that I sound like the turtle from fucking Finding Nemo, but goddamn, when Timothy Oliphant says that line, I'm like, dude, you sound like you're rivaling Keanu Reeves as far as like that kind of voice, you know? Whoa.
See, he's very over the top, but it weirdly works for me. I don't know. There's something about like Mickey in part 2. But you know, Billy's mother and all that. It all
Billy's mother.
I eat it up, man. Like, his motive is fucking crazy. Yeah. He wants to get caught. Like, it's just like, let's go, dude. Yeah. Mickey's one of the most underrated killers in all of Scream. I just love him to death.
Bob Dole on the witness stand in my defense. Like, and it's perfect for the time that it came out, because that's exactly the way things were politically, because things were sort of flip-flopped in the late 90s, where it was like the conservatives that were more like, oh, we need to like censor this and censor that. We need parental advisory stickers. Like, we need, like, people can't be saying these things or doing these things. We're sort of in a little bit of like a cultural kind of thing right now where, you know, maybe it doesn't hit the same way. But when I saw that in theaters in, what was it, 97? So I was 15 when I saw that in theaters. And it was like, yeah, this totally makes sense. Like, those were the Republicans were the people at that time that would be like, it's the movies that did it, not this psycho, you know?
Right, right.
And Scream 2 has a great opening. I mean, it's so tough to... the opening in the original Scream is like, you're not going to top it. But man, the opening in Scream 2 is really good. And, you know, I'm not very well versed in all of Jada Pinkett Smith's performances, but holy shit, dude, what she does in Demon Knight and then what she does in Scream 2, she's really, really good in these performances. And maybe that's just kind of like natural for her. Because I actually think she's like charmingly bitchy in Scream 2. I dig it.
Yeah.
It feels real.
It's almost sacrilege to say like anything's better than the original Scream opening, because it is. I mean, it's perfect for what it is. But man, my personal favorite though in the whole franchise, I think, is the opening to Scream 2. It's so well done, and it captures the whole tone of that movie so well. Like the kill at the theaters, and you see all the fans excited, like they don't even realize what's happening. It's brilliant. It's a little bit of psychological horror. It's silly. It's fun. It's playful. There's so much about that opening. You could dissect it all day. I just think it's brilliant across the board from start to finish.
Well, and it sort of sets like something off that became a tenet for the franchise from there on out. You know, the idea of stab and the idea, like, because honestly, I think like I think in a way, and I think I might have been, you know, not victim to this, but I might have like fallen for this too. I felt like the original Scream was a little bit more, like more meta than really it is. I actually think Wes Craven's New Nightmare is more meta than Scream. Absolutely. But I think the way that like we sort of think about things is like, oh, he dipped his toe in it in New Nightmare, and then in Scream he went for it. But I think Scream 2 even like it ups the ante from there, you know, as far as like really putting it kind of like in our world and making it something that like exists within our world. And these movies are now like the fake thing. Like Stab is the fake thing, not Scream. Scream is real, which I thought was pretty interesting. And yeah, I mean, the performances are great. I love the way that, you know, the way they play off each other there. I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense that a knife can go through that hard plastic as smooth as it does, but it's just movies, man. I'm cool with it. I'm cool.
No, exactly, man. I mean, it's a fun movie, and that's all it has to be at the end of the day. I want to see I want to see Scream get back to that though, because I think that opening says so much about the entire context and commentary of the film. It almost feels like an overture. You know what I mean? It is a very fun sequence, but when you look a little deeper, it is. I think it just says so much about the whole film in its entirety. So I want to get back to that. Scream 6's opening is like my favorite part of the whole movie. For what it did, I really do like the idea of seeing things from Ghostface's perspective, but it had nothing to do with the overall film. You know what I mean? I want to see something like that just take over. Like, this opening scene is so crucial to everything else that's going to go on for the rest of the flick. That kind of attention to detail is what Scream 7 needs more. I think more than anything. Can Kevin Williamson deliver that? I really hope so. I really hope the answer is yes.
Yeah, me too. And I hope more than anything they just, make sure they get it right before they go to camera, because I think that's just one of those big things. A lot of times things get rushed, and you end up just doing whatever seems like the next logical step. But I always think, like, I come from the world of music and all that stuff. It's like, you write that first draft, and then you go back through it, and you're like, what can we do that's like just showing that we're putting some more thought into it, and that we're not just going with what feels natural. And I think bringing a little bit more of that meta in there would be really nice. And I thought, when I first watched Scream 6, I was like, oh shit, this is going to be interesting. Like, we already know who Ghostface is right away. And then they just immediately cut the legs out from under that. So I was like, oh, because I think that might have been like sort of interesting to like know who one of them was, but maybe there's another one out there that we don't know about, and sort of see how that plays out. But nonetheless, I do think, Scream 6, it had its points, but man, I don't know what the hell happened at the end. I'm sort of confused.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm just excited for Scream 7 to hopefully be a return to form. I think that's what we need now for Scream. We gotta pack it all back up and just do one thing really well and efficient. And then if we can do that, I think we can reinvigorate the franchise, and hopefully again just give some life to this. Scream is the franchise to break rules and break down barriers, and I don't know if we're doing that right now. We're going back to the original Final Girl. Is this gonna work? Are we gonna tell a fresh story here? I hope so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a tough thing. Like, going back to Nev, and how are you going to tie it all together? You've talked about it a lot. I think Dempsey's coming back as well. I know that he sought out the role in Thanksgiving because he wanted to get back into horror, because it had been since Scream 3 when he had been in a horror film, and it's something that he really enjoys. So I'm excited to see him back as well. But yeah, it'll be Scream it's going to be a little bit of a toss up. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully there's some real meaty news that comes out here soon.
Fingers crossed, man. I'm sick of talking about rumors.
Yeah, me too. Well, man, we've been chatting here for 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's amazing. I know it's really late where you're at, Jake. I really appreciate your time, man. You've been super sweet and gracious, not only talking about the stream on your own channel, but with your time here tonight. But I think we've sort of reached a good little spot to kind of cap things off. Before I let you go, though, and I just barely missed it by 32 minutes, but it's your mother's birthday here on the West Coast. I heard you mention that. So happy birthday, Mama Killjoy. I hope it's been a great one. I hope you guys have an awesome time hanging out here. What you're doing, a little something either tomorrow or sometime this weekend or something?
Yeah, we're gonna go out to lunch or something tomorrow at some point. Today was a crazy day at work, obviously, so we're celebrating tomorrow a little more. It's gonna be fun.
Well, I wanted to give the birthday shout out because moms are awesome, and who would we be without our moms? I mean, for number one, we wouldn't be here, and then I'm sure some of your awesome personality traits you get from her. So, you can catch up and talk about Terrifier with her at lunch and all that kind of fun stuff, and maybe go check a matinee of Stream if she hasn't seen it yet and hasn't had that cameo spoiled. Sorry, Robert the Wolfman. But yeah, man, it's been so awesome having you on. Really looking forward to just continuing to follow you on your channel. And, maybe we can put a little something together here. I feel like, you and I have a good little, I don't know. I feel a little bit of a vibe going on here as far as like how we feel about certain things. And not only that, but just like the kind of way we look at things. It's really refreshing to sort of have that, even if every opinion doesn't line up, it's like we're kind of, going for the same thing here. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. Guys in the chat, if you're not already subbed to Killjoy Jake, what are you doing? Get over there. There's a link in the description below. You can also follow his Instagram and Golgotha. Jake, it's my goal to get that channel monetized for you. Go over to Golgotha, give him a sub. When you're doing dishes, when you're doing chores around the house, what better to put in your earbuds or on the speaker or on your TV than somebody playing some video games and having a damn good time? So just go over there, give our guy some love. Thank you so much, Jake. You got anything that you want to say to close out the night? I always feel bad. I sort of say goodbye and then just all you have to say is bye. So do your thing.
Dude, it's all good. I really do appreciate that, man. Thank you for the shout out there. I'm really trying to get that. Yeah, that second page monetized would be really fun. I've always wanted a gaming channel, so I can't believe I'm just finally doing it. 2 months ago was like, fuck it, let's go, let's see what happens. So I do appreciate that a bunch. Subscribe to Davey too. Jesus, he's almost monetized, fellas. So make sure to get this guy up there. 1,000 subscribers, you're not too far from it. I know you're gonna hit it, man.
Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you. And yeah, let's keep in touch and see what we can put together here as 2024 comes to a close. Thank you so much, Jake. Take care, man.
You too.
All right, everybody. Oh my gosh, what an epic episode. This was amazing. I had no idea. So usually, guys, when I bring on somebody that's, to me, I mean, when I look at what Jake does on his channel and I see his subscriber count and all that stuff, I'm like, this guy is a massive success, right? So whenever I bring somebody on that I look up to as a content creator, it's one of those things where it's like, you just never know how much time you got. You never know how it's going to go and all that stuff. So thank you so much again to Killjoy Jake. That was awesome having him on. I could have talked for probably for another hour, but I start to even feel that within myself where I'm like, maybe this is a good spot. It's 12:30 out on the East Coast where Jake's at. So, always good to cap it off when you feel it coming to its natural end for sure. We got some birthday love for Mama Killjoy and for Tyler's mother. Hell yeah. And her name is Martha, like Superman and Batman. Why did you say that name? Why did you say that name? There, I gave you 2 of those, Tyler. Necro Mechanimal saying peace. Thank you so much for hanging out. Jamie, I know it's late where you're at as well. Really appreciate you kicking it with us here. Jamie, Terrifier 2 is worth it. Now, it's very bloody and all that kind of stuff, but it's man, the first movie isn't really a movie. Terrifier 2 is actually a movie. Maybe you can catch it in the theaters on a second run. Hell yeah, Prince has an EP coming out this December. Man, let me know when you've got something ready to listen to, Prince. I'd love to check it out. I'm a huge music fan. Aaron says in Scream 2, when Jada's character gets up after multiple stabs, her look is more of like a child that just had her toys taken away than a person. Yeah, I think she does feel sort of like, but I think they're like, what I take from it, Aaron, is that she does feel betrayed and like that she can't believe like this is really what's happening. Like this is what's happening and no one's helping me. So yeah, and that's a really interesting thing too, is just like how you view it as an audience member, because to me, I don't have an issue with it, but yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like, as far as just how you decipher the look on someone's face and if you think it's a good performance or not. And there you go. You think it's hilarious. So yeah, Tyler, Jake was amazing. I mean, the guy is so high energy, so awesome, such a success on his own. So for him to come in and give that energy, I really didn't feel like I was like hosting with somebody like Jake. It felt like we were kind of co-hosting the interview together. So we're kind of similar in the sense that we both talk a lot. So all I have to do is ramble on for a minute and be like, what do you think? And then he's ready to go just like I am. Just empty out that wheelbarrow of opinions and thoughts. Yeah. And Nicholas says, Davey, you're more entertaining and less political than every talk show host. Well, yeah, because I don't have to do a monologue. Nicholas, if I came out here and had to like talk to an audience and tell jokes about things that were happening in the world, like unfortunately, they have to do something like that, you know? And you know, like I mentioned yesterday, guys, like, you know, I think politics are interesting. I like talking about those things with people. Usually in person, it's a little bit easier because, you know, you can read each other's feelings and emotion and body language. And it's easier to not become hot headed when you're, you know, having a good constructive conversation with somebody in person. So I do think those things are important. But yeah, I mean, as far as the channel goes and all that, like to me, and I was talking, Jamie and I were talking last night, you know, offline just about everything. And it's like, I'm here for the community. I'm here for you guys. I'm here to talk about movies, to talk about the things that we love, to talk about, you know, even if our opinions on movies might be different, but we still like have a love for the art form. We love horror. Like a lot of us are giant horror fans, and we love, you know, film, music, all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm here for. And you know, I'm not an apolitical kind of person, but and I'm not really even that private or anything like that. But as far as the channel goes, it is nice and refreshing just to kind of leave that stuff at the door, you know, and focus on the things that we have in common. Because at the end of the day, like I'm a big Bobby Kennedy fan, like the original Robert Kennedy. And one of the things that he talked about before he was assassinated in 1968, in April of 1968, was, you know, that we have so much more in common than we have different. And that a majority of people in this country, they want to get along. Like we want to get along with our neighbors, right? And I've said this before too. I do think that sometimes in politics, like the goal of politics is to make us think that our neighbors are the enemy. I actually am more inclined to think that the people in the establishment, in the political establishment, and it exists in every party. There's people that are establishment, you know, they're millionaires and billionaires that maybe aren't really thinking about our best interests or don't even know what it's like to live the lives that we live. I think it's really important to remember that like your neighbor has more in common with you than the person you're voting for. And so it doesn't mean that you don't need to be political or have faith in the people that you vote for. I just think it's important to remember that, man, we're all brothers and sisters. We're in this together. And ultimately what I want is the best life for everyone, you know? So that's all I'll say about all the the political stuff. Try to keep it even keeled, but I do appreciate you saying that for sure. Nicholas, thank you so much, man. Antonis is leaving for Europe tomorrow. How long are you going, Antonis? I hope you have a great time, man. I've never been. I've been to Canada, I've been to Mexico, and of course the United States, and that's it. Yeah, I'm pretty much about as basic of a white dude as it gets. There you go. Jamie's gonna give Terrifier 2 a chance. Hell yeah. Yes, have a safe trip, Antonis. Absolutely. The agony probably would trump the, yeah. But you know, and sometimes in movies things are done just for that, like they're done for the audience. So yeah, sometimes like the storytelling is done through a facial expression or through the acting, but I totally get what you're saying, Aaron. If we're talking full realism, then yeah, she wouldn't have like the wherewithal or the mindset to articulate that. But I think it's just something that was like intentional as a storytelling element. But I totally see what you're saying. And I think it's valid. If something makes you laugh in a movie that some other people think is serious, like, you know, I laugh at inappropriate things all the time. Not as much as Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, but quite a bit. And she does have a childlike vulnerability. There you go. Tyler throwing down some truth. Right now, Prince has been releasing stuff on acapella since no studio yet. Oh, so you're just doing it vocals. All right, man. Well, I'm interested. When you got something fully realized, I want to hear your fully realized song, because as a musician myself, Prince, I know how it can be really exciting to sort of like let people hear the genesis of your idea. But also I appreciate as an artist, like you being able to put something together and having it be like in your eyes, the final product, like the thing that's ready for everyone to listen to. So let me know. Eli, I did pick up the Steelbook of Army of Darkness. I think I got it at Walmart like 6 or 8 months ago. I actually haven't watched it. I had the standard Blu-ray for a little while, and then I saw the Steelbook. It was on sale for like $10, and I got it because it has like all the stuff that my other Blu-ray had, but some extra stuff. So yeah, really beautiful Steelbook. I don't have many Steelbooks, but that's one of them. Man, Prince, Only the Poets. You got to can you send me an actual track or DM me like a link to a YouTube video that you think is the best song for me to listen to for the first time? Maybe not your favorite song, but you think would be the best one for a first time listener. Jamie knows what's up. This community brings us together, and that's what counts. I couldn't agree with you more, Jamie. Honestly, guys, I'm not saying that I don't care how you vote. It's not that, but I'm not going to judge you solely on how you feel about politics, because the people that we are, it's an amalgamation. It's a summation of everything that we know and love and feel and believe. Politics is just one part of that. So it's not everything. That's something that's important to remember, especially in these sort of times in an election season. Man, the division is strong, and everyone in the establishment, everyone, the news, the political parties, like they all have a hand in the divisiveness, unfortunately. And so I think it's important for us to remember what Jamie says right here. The community brings us together. Absolutely. Yeah, Raymond, that's what I was sort of hinting at. Like I kind of got that vibe with Jake where I was like, man, it would be really fun to do something with Jake where we collaborate on like a versus, or I've been writing down all sorts of ideas that I have, and just sort of like keeping stock of them. There's a website that I use where every single one of my video ideas, I can put my video idea in there and it gives me suggestions, either on like how to title it or whatever. And it's just been like, it's been compounding. I keep on thinking of these great ideas, and especially because Jake, I mean, he's going to be 26 here pretty soon. Excuse me. But he does, I mean, man, for a young guy, like there's a lot of knowledge there. So I think it would be really cool to have like Old Cat, which is me, and Cool Cat, which is Jake, come together on something and have a chat, like, talking about those, maybe doing a video on like, this is what we want to see from the Evil Dead. This is what we want to see from Scream. Or one of those versus ideas. I've been writing a whole bunch of versus ideas down. I think a big one that would be fun is like the Better Legacy sequel, H2O, or Halloween 2018. I think that's a really fun one. Let me see what other ones I've got. That's really the only one I've put an incredible amount of work into at this point. But I do have some others jotted down at this time. So yeah, as we were talking, I was like, man, it would be really cool to do like this kind of vid with Jake. So yeah, he's really busy. I don't know if his channel is what he does for a living, but I know he's incredibly busy. I don't see him doing too many collaborations. So I would be like I would think of it as something very special if he were willing to do that. And even if it ends up being something that's like pre-recorded, so it doesn't drag on too long and we can sort of like compress the amount of time that we use, then so be it as well. But yeah, I totally agree with you there, Raymond. Nicholas says I'm in the middle when it comes to politics. I like Bobby and JFK too. That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, I have a book of Bobby's. It's called To Seek a Newer World, and it's a collection of his essays. And I think Bobby Kennedy was just man, insanely smart. And somebody that I really look up to. I love watching his old speeches. I think it's incredible to think about where the country could have been if he weren't assassinated and he were to be able to be president. Because I think even for his time, he was pretty radical in the sense that, kind of like what you're saying, Nicholas, like he was sort of in the middle. He didn't necessarily, even though he had a D next to his name, it wasn't about like towing a party line. It was like what's best for the people. And I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why Robert Kennedy Jr. is similar in that sense. I do think like I love his father more, and maybe that's just the fact that it's nostalgia and that he's not around anymore, so it's easier to sort of look at it in a vacuum. But yeah, really interesting ideas on, you know, how to help people reach their full potential. Nearly ended myself due to huge weights. Anxiety took over. I thought I had no purpose, but kept on fighting. And I'm still here and I'm going to get through this. Hell yeah. That's awesome to have that. You got to have that positivity. Absolutely, Prince. Tyler says the establishment is largely out of touch with the majority of the population. They aren't like us, and idolizing them is dumb as shit. Whoo! That's very well said. I love that, Tyler. Yeah, I think even if this is the way I feel, is even if I'm you know, gonna vote for somebody, like I believe in them more as a candidate. The idea of like the cult of personality thing that Living Color sang about, and that idea of like worshiping anyone that's a politician, I think is really dangerous. Like no matter who it is, I don't mean dangerous in like a violent sense. I just mean that like you can be taken advantage of. Oh yeah, absolutely, man. That's what we're all about, is just being welcoming to each other. Raymond says we may not agree with each other's opinions, but we don't get mean. That's why I love being on the streams I go on. I think that's where it's at, you know. Nicholas says I can tell you care a lot about people, Davey. Yeah, I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, I do. And you know, certainly there are things in my life that I struggle with and things in my life that I could be better at. And everyone has their flaws and their weak moments and the moments where they could be better. What I see a lot now, like nowadays, what I see like lately is, you know, people just not being able to sort of like admit to their faults. The idea that like, oh, if I admit that there's like something wrong with me, then it undercuts everything about my character and who I am. I think that the opposite is true. I think that if you act like you're never wrong, that to me is like the biggest red flag. And especially when it comes to politics, that's like when I see that within like a political party or a candidate, that they're never willing to admit that when they're wrong and that they can't concede the moments where they were weak. I start to like, I start to not like them a lot because I think it's a good quality to show vulnerability and to be honest. Call me crazy. I know I'm not saying anything new. I think everyone just wants a little honesty, right? Antona says he's going to Paris for 3 days and then going to Greece for his cousin's wedding. Hell yeah, man. You get to go to your home country and enjoy that. That's amazing. Everyone's showing love to each other. Eli's throwing it out to Prince, and Prince is throwing it right back. Boom. Jamie says, I love everybody. There you go. Guys, if we just hold on to those things that are core and we don't let the powers that be tear us away from one another, that's the best thing for us and the scariest thing for them. You know, I think that's an important thing to remember, is the last thing that the political establishment wants is for us to get along, because then we're really dangerous. Like, you know, look out. Like once the people start agreeing with each other, like what the hell are you going to do other than give them everything they want, right? There it is. Prince, I've been in the same spot, man. Honest to goodness, I'm a songwriter myself. I spent a great part of my life writing music and playing music. It's what I poured most of my years into. And music as a fan has saved me, and music as a writer has saved me, certainly. Raymond says I was nervous when I was first on a stream, but everyone is so kind. I live alone, and a live stream chat helps beat my loneliness. Yeah, man, me too. I mean, because, you know, Kate and I live kind of away from, you know, we're 30 minutes away from downtown Phoenix, 40 minutes away from downtown Phoenix, something like this. So we're sort of like in a little smaller community, and I'm not driving all around like hanging out with buddies every night. So I know you guys have heard me say this all the time on the channel, but hanging out with you guys is like hanging out with friends. And so I totally get it. Like, you know, I don't even live alone. You know, there's Kate, there's the cats. Like I love my family and everything. And coming here to hang out with you guys is just, it's such an added bonus to be able to get to know new people and, you know, develop a relationship with you guys. Jamie says, I knew when you said Jake was going to be on here that it would be a good show. Jake's awesome. He absolutely is. Yeah. Love that guy. Guys, check out his links in the description below if you're not subbed to his channel. or if you're not following him on Instagram, or if you're not following Golgotha, his gaming channel, check it out. I'm sure movies is all our favorite topic here. Well, there you go, Antonis. Yeah, I think that's relatively obvious, right? Do a versus show called Davey's Deathmatch. Tyler, I love it. I'm writing that down. So I've got Juice in the Caboose, and then right under that is going to be Davey's Deathmatch. All right. That's a good one. Davey's Deathmatch. All right. Well, now I have the rights to that, Tyler. So, once I become a millionaire, though, checks in the mail. Don't worry about it. But until then, don't expect a dime. Lost Boys versus Fright Night. There it is. I think a Lost Boys versus The Craft could be really cool. A little bit of a battle of the sexes kind of thing. We need some collaborations with Cody from Dude Who Loves Movies. All right. You know what we're going to do? We've already talked about doing a Tales from the Crypt episode. That's actually going to be myself and two Codys, Cody Snyder and Cody from Dude Who Loves Movies. We're going to talk about And All Through the House, the Christmas episode of Tales from the Crypt, the second episode ever. We might shoot that sometime this fall and then, put it out here during the winter months. Jamie says, I love movies, ... and mushrooms. Lovely, lovely. I like the mushrooms that taste like chicken. I'm not a big button mushroom guy. Prince says, life story, I'm living with a disability and I really thought I had no place in this world, but then music saved me. I'm going to use my gift of music for a good cause. That is inspiring and awesome, Prince. That is amazing, man. I wouldn't have been able to tell about any sort of, different ability or anything like that. So I would say that I'm excited to hear your music, man. I want to know what you got. There you go. Jamie loves the idea too. Davey's Deathmatch. There you go. Gavin is up. You're up way late, Gavin. Yeah. We had an awesome chat with Killjoy Jake. So if you scrub back, man, it was like I said earlier, I felt like I wasn't even hosting. It was like co-hosting because we were just bouncing off each other like crazy. I've seen some anime, but mostly film anime. I like it, but I don't know if it resonated with me the way it does with a lot of people. But yeah, I've seen like Akira. I really like Vampire Hunter D, Ninja Scroll. Like that kind of stuff's really fun. I grew up watching Voltron, which is a animated TV show, but it's certainly in that anime style. Yeah, I mean, Aaron brings up something that's pretty apropos, just saying that the two major party duopoly is an issue. Yeah. I think that's the tough thing too. That's what makes it works for the people involved in politics because it makes it easier to divide if you only have one or the other to choose from. So I think that duopoly is done by design. I think that's done with purpose for sure. Yeah, something, or just so they can take over, right? Just make us feel like if we feel more paranoid about our neighbors than we do about the politicians and we start worshiping them like they're religious figures, man, we're in trouble. Regardless of where you're at, we're in trouble. As soon as you find yourself worshiping a politician, it starts to get really difficult to see the truth because you're going off faith in something that feels more religious than practical. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully that's not too controversial to say. Oh my gosh. Hell yeah, Eli. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the kind words. Halloween 2 is still winning easily for yay. Oh my God, you guys, I didn't even check. Let me check. I totally forgot about that. So yeah, let's close out the poll. We have 43 votes. 53% say yay on Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie. 47% say nay. So pretty close. But yeah, a winner for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And guys, thank you so much, Antonis, for bringing that up. Really appreciate it, man. I'm going to be myself and Nick from the Lost River Drive-In. We're going to be over on Drum Dums this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be a DD live on Drum Dums. Nick and I are going to be over there with Lee, and we're going to be celebrating 15 years of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. This idea popped in my head earlier this year. I reached out to Nick and Lee probably like March or April. And I was like, guys, I know you're probably busy. I know this isn't until August, but I know that you guys love Halloween 2. And I want to do a 15th anniversary celebration. And I'd love to do something with you guys. I've been watching Lee for almost 7 or 8 years now. And I've been watching Nick for a while as well. And, you guys saw him on an earlier episode of Late Night with the Davey this year. So, putting this together and then Lee being gracious enough to put it on his channel, just because I came up with the idea, I was like, well, we can put it on my channel, but I want to cast the biggest net. So let's go out there on Drum Dums. Lee has an amazing subscriber base there. And, man, I mean, if anything, it'll be a great opportunity for a bunch of people to, to finally find out who the hell I am, because, you guys are my guys. Every time I get on a stream, we got 18 people in here right now watching. I feel like I see you guys every time, and I love you guys so much. And it'll be really cool just to be able to sort of show my personality and, show everything else that I've got to, maybe a little bit of a new audience. And then our streams over here grow, and the community over here on the Davey Deathray channel grows a little bit. And we get some new regulars. We get to know each other, and, support each other and be there for each other and just grow a bigger community. Absolutely. There you go. Jamie says, this community has shown me I have value beyond being a wife and a mom. There you go. Oh, and I've got my timer going off telling me to upload a short to YouTube. Subbing to his channel when we're done. Hell yeah. Over to Killjoy Jake. Love it. Favorite rom-com. Gosh, I don't really like rom-coms very much. Does Josie and the Pussycats count? Because I love that movie. I have to get better at admitting when I'm wrong, when I am, and then the older I get, the more empathetic I become for people too. I think those are both good things. And I think, admitting when you're wrong doesn't, it doesn't negate who you are as a person. I think sometimes people are like, well, if I admit that I'm wrong, then it's going to throw everything, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But to me, I just think it's refreshing and honest, and it's something that I'm willing to do for the people in my life. And I find that it's a really valuable thing when other people are willing to do it. Boom, there it is. Jamie dropping the link to sub over at Jake's channel. Hell yeah. Let me catch up with you guys. I'm already getting tired. I'm sure you guys can tell that my energy is going down because we're going on 3 hours here. We had a revolution over a 3-cent tax. I think it's time we stick up for ourselves again. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tall order there for sure. Gavin says, if you can't critique whatever politician you side with, you're already blurred beyond repair. Yeah, there you go. The middle ground is where most sane people sit. I think so. Yeah, I think that's true too, what you're saying. Even if you're going to end up voting for somebody, to at least be real about the flaws that they have, maybe they have a tough time being real about it. Certainly I feel like every president we've ever had has a tough time being real about their own self-evaluation. But, we should be able to have that within ourselves, to be able to see that, in them and in ourselves. Oh yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Giving us that little peek into what your day is like, it's great, Prince. Yeah, I think giving that perspective, it helps people appreciate kind of where you're coming from, for sure. Oh, and we got Ashton in the chat. What's happening, Ashton? Great to see you. I can't believe it, guys. When Jake was here, we had a good crowd here, and I am so surprised to see that now it's just me, blah, blah, blahing, that you guys are still hanging around. Truly humbling. Really awesome. I love hanging out with you guys, and I love you guys so much. And Ashton is one of our great channel members. Thank you so much for tuning in, Ashton. We had an awesome time with Killjoy Jake. As you can tell, I'm a little exhausted from it. You can always scrub back and check out that conversation. It was a blast. What's happening? Tales Told in the Dark. Is this your first time? Welcome to the chat. If it is, everybody make Tales Told in the Dark feel welcome. Hell yeah. Eli says 120 subs to 1,000. I told you you'd do it before Christmas. Man, I would love to have it wrapped up before the end of September. How about that? Maybe even sooner. What if going over on Drum Dums can sort of close that gap? I'm going to challenge Lee's audience when we're on there. I'm going to say, you know what, guys? I wanted to reach 1,000 subs by the end of August. Can you guys prove me right that can happen? And let's see if that audience of his can come through and deliver. I'm going to bring it up, even if Lee is like, ooh, don't do it. I'm going to do it. Raymond says, I'm not a fan of RZH2, but I'll be there chilling in the chat. There you go. It'll be for everybody, Raymond. It'll be fun. And maybe you'll hear something about the movie that gives you a perspective you hadn't thought about before. Maybe if you watch it again, maybe you find a little bit more of enjoyment out of it, right? So I think that's the fun thing about talking about movies for sure. Boom, 41 likes. Amazing. That is incredible. You guys are awesome. Eli says, let's see a short unboxing of the JC vinyl. I would do it if it were in the room with me, Eli, but it is not in the room with me. I have it. It's actually on the record player right now. But yeah, we can do that. We can do that next time I go live. I'm going to be doing some stuff this weekend because Kate's going camping. So you guys are going to see a lot of me. Make that baby a slip and slide with bathwater. I don't know what that means, but I love it. I love it. I'll be a chaotic guest once Davey has me. Once you've got, a single ready to go or something, Prince, get a hold of me. Oh, Gavin, you're too sweet. I don't think so, but I appreciate that. I'm going to go Mortal Kombat. Out of Tekken, Mortal Kombat, and Street Fighter, I'm a horror fan, so I'm going to go Mortal Kombat all the way, especially Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Woo! What a game. What a game. Hell yeah. Everyone's showing some love. Oh, no, you're fine, Nicholas. I can totally, sometimes when I read comments, like I stumble over them as well. And then also there's other times where I realize, because I'm always in the chat on other people's channels, like sometimes you like punch something through really quick and maybe there's an autocorrect or something like that. So whenever I read people's texts, like sometimes I try to do a little mid-sentence autocorrect or whatever to kind of get the gist of what they're saying for sure. Boom. Jamie says, don't forget to smash that thumbs up. Yeah, hit that like, subscribe to the channel, join the Death Squad. Guys, for 99 cents a month, you can get exclusive content, right? So when I go and I do my watch parties for the Tales from the Crypt episodes, those are for members only, but they're for all the members. Like there are certain things that only the second and third tier get, but every member, even if it's 99 cents, for less than $1 a month, you can get live watch parties, which we're going to get into some of that this weekend. That's going to be for members only. So something to keep in mind. And then, yeah, if you're watching this after the fact, drop a comment, let me know what you thought about all the wild shit that Killjoy, Jake, and I talked about, because I'm fascinated to know. I'd rather see Friday the 13th come back than Nightmare. I'm a bigger Friday fan than I am a Nightmare. I didn't play either of those games. I will play Resident Evil 4 over Rainbow Six and Ghost Recon. Bam, the likes just keep on growing. Oh my God. Raymond hated RZ's H2 when he first saw it. Didn't hate it when he rewatched it a couple months ago. See, maybe, it's been okay. So maybe after the stream with Lee, Nick, and I, once we sort of like talk about the things we love, Raymond, it might be a good time, to watch it with those things in mind and see if it sort of, sways you or maybe just makes things, make a little more sense for you. Start bench cut, Chris Hemsworth, Channing Tatum, Ryan Gosling. Ooh, I don't know. I'll start Chris Hemsworth. I'll bench Ryan Gosling. I'll cut Channing Tatum because the only thing I've seen Channing Tatum in that I liked is Hateful Eight. Personally a Tekken guy. Tekken's fun, cool anime style. Start Ryan Gosling, bench Channing Tatum, and cut Chris Hemsworth. Damn! The next Crypt, I know I'm way behind, guys. Without getting like too into it and everything, just stuff going on in my personal life outside of just, keeping up on these lives and stuff. And then I know I did a live yesterday about the Friday the 13th TV series, but I was just really feeling it. So I had to hop in. I'm planning on shooting the next Crypt episode. I don't know if I'll get to it tomorrow because I think I'm just going to kind of give myself a day off. But I'll probably get to it this weekend, Tyler. So I would imagine that episode is called Only Sin Deep. It stars Leah Thompson, and it's about a young woman of the night who basically puts her beauty on consignment so she can have loads of money and have other things. So it's a really interesting, like, beauty versus money kind of concept of an episode. So I need to rewatch it. I've watched it once in preparation. I need to watch it a second time and take down some notes, and then I'll be able to shoot that this weekend. I want to drop it for members and patrons early, and then probably, I would imagine Sunday or Monday would be the soonest that it would be available for everyone out there. So yeah, Resident Evil over Silent Hill all day. All right, have a good one, Nicholas. Great to see ya. Right answer. Oh, so Jamie picked the right start bench cut. There you go. Cut Ryan Gosling. He's literally horrible at everything he does, but he's hot, Gavin. Come on. I mean, the other guys aren't. I don't know. I have a really difficult time telling if guys are attractive. I mean, other than like the obvious things like being muscly or like not being a mess physically, like I understand what those things mean. But as far as like facial features go, I don't understand. Most times I can't. I don't really get what makes a guy good looking. It's just I have like blindness to it. I don't know what it is. But every now and then I can be like, oh yeah, I can tell that's a good looking guy. Scout and Brad Dourif were really good in it. Yeah, they're really great in Rob Zombie's H2. I think Malcolm McDowell's really good in it. We get to see a Loomis like we've never seen before. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know what SBC is, and I haven't watched all those other shows. I've seen some of Game of Thrones, but I'm not really hot on it. I didn't really care for Game of Thrones too much. Start bench cut Pedro Pascal, Oscar Isaac, Joaquin Phoenix. Start Joaquin Phoenix. Bench Pedro, cut Oscar. Not enough to be bad. Which movie are you guys talking about? Let's see here. What did I miss? Oh, it's Magic Mike. There you go. Getting all giddy. Jeez. In some ways, ladies are so complex, and in other ways, they're just as simple as us simple dudes, huh? Ryan did a cool film called The Believer, kind of an American History X sort of film. Yeah, I've never seen that one. Yeah, he was in some more dramatic stuff early on, too. All those guys are attractive, but they aren't really my type. Keanu Reeves is my type. All right. I'm a Bruce Campbell kind of guy. I always really liked Edward Norton, too. I know he's not, maybe not traditionally attractive, but I like his face. I'm straight, but Brandon Lee and the Crow, says Gavin. That's some good shit. Going to Fantastic Riv Go Crazy. Is this your first time in the chat? Welcome, Riv Go Crazy. Everybody make Riv Go Crazy feel welcome here in the chat. I know it's just a state away, but I will not be making it to Fantastic Fest. There are just some bigger things going on in my life that I'm taking care of. So, all those sort of extra expenditures and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it, but I do plan on seeing Terrifier 3 when it comes out in theaters. Absolutely. I don't know if I'm going to do a review. Guys, I love doing the Tales from the Crypt reviews because I'm really passionate about that show. And I know I've said this before, but being a review channel, not really my thing. I'm becoming more and more disenfranchised with doing reviews because they take a lot of time. And, doing pre-recorded videos takes time. You shoot the video, you have to make sure you say everything right. If I mess up on a live, whatever. But on a pre-recorded video, I want to make sure everything's concise. And then you spend just as much time editing or double the amount of time editing the video. So I'm sort of like falling out of love with doing pre-recorded reviews. I may work things into where it's like, you know what? I'm going to do a live and I'm going to review these 3 movies on my live. And then everyone can hop in. And I'll do a little banner that just puts the movie across the screen there. And we talk about the movie and I give my review. And it's sort of like a casual review because I'm just so much more interested in everything else going on with the channel. Is far more gratifying for me personally. And it seems like you guys really dig it too. So I sort of just want to kind of cater to what's working, Star Bench Cut is SBC. You're too funny. Gladiator or King Arthur? I'll go Gladiator. I've never seen King Arthur. And then Ashton, I'm straight, but Hugh Jackman, just saying. I love it. I love it. Riv B going crazy. Jake brought me here. Hell yeah. Did you check out the interview? If not, you can scrub back. We had an amazing chat. I love Jake's channel so much. He's got such great energy. Thank you so much for giving us a shot, man. Really appreciate you hanging out in the chat. I hope you come back for more and check out the channel. See if there's something there for you. You know, I do pre-recorded movie reviews. I do some trailer reactions, all sorts of stuff. So, you know, I've only been doing this for 13 months. The channel is continuing to grow, but every week on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, we're here for Late Night with the Davey. And every week we've got a different guest that's a creative person, either a YouTube content creator, maybe a musician or a film director or a writer. Next month, I've got an actor coming up. I've got Jared Bankins, who we just talked about. He's my pick for Freddy Krueger. He was in the Twisted Metal TV show, and he's going to be here on Wednesday, September 11th. I'm really excited. He's got a brand new movie coming out on September 6th called Off Ramp. Now, it's a movie about a couple of ICP fans making their way to the gathering of the Juggalos. And I've been reading these reviews where people are like, this movie, a movie about Juggalos going to the gathering of the Juggalos made me want to be a better person. So I'm so interested in like what goes on in the story. And like, I've just got this sense and this feeling that it's going to be a really powerful movie that like, you know, when you try to describe the synopsis with a sentence, people might roll their eyes, but when you actually sit down and watch it, that there's something poignant and meaningful there. So I really love him as a performer. I want to see him play Freddy Krueger. I'm really excited to have him on, and I'm hoping to have, you know, more people that are active, you know, in the filmmaking community as far as actors, writers, and directors on the show. So we're going to be shooting for the stars here. Paula Fitzhenry, welcome to the chat, Paula. Everybody make Paula feel welcome. I think this is your first time, Paula. No worries about being late. You can always scrub back, like I just told our guy Riv Go Crazy, and check out the lovely chat we had with Killjoy Jake. Really enjoy that guy's work and everything he does. I need to check out the King Arthur movie. I totally missed it. Channing is going evil, I think, in Blink Twice, directed by Zoe Kravitz. Man, I have no idea about that. I'll have to check it out. Ooh, start bench cut Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe, Michael Keaton. Damn. I'm gonna start Michael Keaton, bench Hugh Jackman, and cut Russell Crowe. And I give Keaton the edge because he can do comedy and serious really, really well. I do love Hugh Jackman, and I enjoy Russell Crowe as well. Lenny Kravitz or my name twin? I would take Prince over. Lenny Kravitz is like one of the most vapid, terrible. I don't think there's anything of value for Lenny Kravitz. He's got like a couple good songs. I don't think Lenny Kravitz is anything special at all. I think he's like pretty minimum effort to go opposite of Deadpool. And I think Prince is one of the most impressive songwriters of all time, performers of all time. The guy could write any genre of music and totally crush it. He was always himself and completely himself unabashedly. I feel like Lenny Kravitz is a total poser that can kind of play guitar and wrote a couple good songs, but that's it. Start Hugh, bench Michael, cut Russell. That's fair too. 9/11 tribute. Nice. Yeah, not purposely done, but we do the show on Wednesdays, and this year it happens to be on September 11th. Yeah, we're not going to be talking about that, hopefully. It's a bit of a lighter show. Hulk, Blade, Constantine. I'll do it in that order. There you go. What's happening? DJ Plays Favorites. Welcome to the chat, everybody. Make DJ Plays Favorites feel welcome here. A first timer. Are you talking about Well, I'm talking about a movie called Off Ramp that is about the couple Juggalos going to the gathering of the Juggalos. I don't know who Scott Adkins is. Frank Grillo, I know him a little bit. I'm not qualified to answer that one. What's happening, Melissa? Great to see you in the chat. Everybody saying what's up to each other. Yes, ICP is the Insane Clown Boss. How long before we get the real Laurie Strode, Scout Taylor? Oh, dude, are you serious, Gavin? Well, I don't see any reason why she would appear on my show. I'd love to have her on. I think she, you know, if you scrub back to the conversation Jake and I had about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I think she really like showed something new and different and awesome in that sequel. I don't think there was anything wrong with her performance in the first movie at all. I think she's fine and she's great. I just think she has a little more to work with in the sequel, and man, she really shows her chops. I think she's a great Laurie Strode. I would love to have Scout on the show, and now I know that she's doing directing, so really love seeing people kind of like spread their wings and get more involved in the creative like medium that they're really passionate about. So I would love to have Scout on the show. I don't see why she would do it because she's got her own show with Danielle Harris. I certainly can't compete with Danielle. And then, you know, she's always at cons and also working because she's making movies still. Great Malenko. Yeah. Great Malenko. That was the big record that came out when I was in high school. I think that's what their third album. That was like their breakout into the mainstream. Stranger Things or The Last of Us. I haven't seen any of The Last of Us show. I only like the first season of Stranger Things though. So maybe not qualified for that one, but I guess I would pick Stranger Things just because I've seen it and I haven't seen Last of Us. Iron Man. I would do Daredevil, Iron Man, Punisher. Let's see here. The Beths are a great band, Prince. Thank you so much. Guys, if you haven't listened to the Beths from New Zealand, they're one of the best bands I've ever heard in my whole life. I absolutely adore that band. I can't recommend them enough. They only have 3 full-length albums, but they've got some other stuff out there too. They're probably in their late 20s, early 30s, something like that. They're a relatively young band. I just really enjoy what they do. They've got a really diverse, eclectic sound. Not one song necessarily sounds like the next, although there are certain like melodic and harmonious through lines. You have a great singer-songwriter, female singer-songwriter, and then the guys that are the rest of the band, they all sing as well. So you have this massive, huge sound. Sometimes the Beths remind me of early Weezer. Other times they remind me of bands like the Cranberries. And of course, they've got their own thing that's just sort of their sound. But I do hear some really cool garagey power pop 90s kind of vibes in there that I really, really enjoy. Absolutely. Gavin's curious if everyone's gonna go see Stream. I really do want to see it. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm very interested, especially after hearing what Jake had to say. Aaron wants to see Kneecap. I've never even heard of that. Will they be wrestling at the Juggalos at midnight? I don't know. Do they do wrestling there? I don't even know. There's a duo named Fly By Midnight. Your starting point should be a song called Love Me Like a Friend. Yeah, please send me a DM with a YouTube link. That's the easiest way to get me to listen to what you got. I only followed WWF when it was called WWF in the 80s. So I'm like an Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, like pre-Ultimate Warrior. Those are my days, like Bret the Hitman Hart, Mr. Perfect, Jim Hacksaw Duggins, Junkyard Dog, stuff like that. Favorite horror movies? Oh man, Evil Dead, Halloween, Day of the Dead by George Romero, The Thing. Those are just, 4 of them. I really love The Changeling with George C. Scott from 1980. That's one of my favorites. It would be awesome if I could have Scout on. Raymond's got a massive crush. Well, she is a very lovely lady. I do think that's true. For sure. I think like, for me, like what really makes it work is her chops, I think I've probably said this before on the channel, but like there's so many good looking actors and actresses, but if you can't act, like I don't care. I really don't care. Like I don't care how good looking Jessica Alba might be on paper. Like she can't act, so I don't want to see her in anything ever. Like she's garbage, But Scout's got the chops and she is very pretty. Haven't seen Last of Us? Unsubbed. Yeah, what can you do? I'm an old guy. Jamie's gonna go see Stream because Jake sold her on it earlier. That's awesome. Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean it looks really interesting for sure. Elizabeth from the Beths, she does rule. I was trying to remember her. Elizabeth Stokes is her name. I think it's so cute too that the band is called The Beths, and it's just she's the only Beth in the band, but I think it's kind of cool. It's a catchy name. Would it be fair to say that ICP is backyard wrestling, even though they were in WCW and WWF? Yeah, I guess they could be all three, right? If they did backyard stuff, then that counts, and if they've been in the federations and the all that stuff, then that counts too. What's happening, Curtis? Yeah. Good morning. Yes. Oh man, guys, if you are not subbed over at Twisted Locker, go give them a sub, man. Our guys Curtis and Jenks out in Wales. How cool is it that we've got horror brethren out there in Wales? These guys are passionate, informed, smart, great opinions and just really entertaining. They just put out a video. Curtis's favorite horror film of all time is John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. Put out a great video talking about that film. I know a lot of us already know and love the film, but for me, sometimes it's just fun to see if somebody's got something new to say and just to hear somebody praise something that I already love, because, we need a little bit of that positivity in our lives for sure. Great to see you, Curtis. Really enjoyed that video. And guys, on my channel, if you go over to the video section, Curtis, Jenks, and I did a review of Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone, which is the 3rd episode of Tales from the Crypt. That was a lot of fun getting together with those guys. And, we were talking about community together and how this all brings us together. One of the things that I didn't really foresee when starting a YouTube channel is that so quickly, to be able to collaborate with, somebody like Chris Stanley out in Australia, and then connecting with Curtis and Jenks over in Wales, like, it's amazing. You feel like you got, brothers from another mothers. And it's really awesome to connect with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, over the love of something that we're all so passionate about. And yeah, can't wait to do a watch party with you guys, Curtis, of Brain Dead. That'll be really fun. Or Dead Alive, as we call it out here in the States, as it were. And Curtis, I was looking around. You guys are in South Wales, right? But there's a spot in North Wales called Conway, and my last name is Conway. Now we spell it, we put an A at the end, so there's an A between the W and the Y. I know out there in Wales, I think it's still pronounced Conway, but it's just there's no A in between. And there's Conway Castle. It's like this 14,000 person town. I just thought that was kind of cool. I didn't know. I know that Conway has Irish roots, and I know that there's a whole bunch of mixing going on as far as like England, Wales, and Ireland and Scotland goes. I'm sure plenty of travel between all places, so there's plenty of a mixture of cultures there, but thought that was pretty cool. Let's see here. Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. You watch it yet? I'm sorry, Tyler. I'm sorry. I haven't. Boom. Raymond says it's great. I gotta see it. Twisted Curtis says, I'll take Jessica Alba, but only in Rodriguez films. There you go. There you go. What is this main channel about, since Killjoy Jake mentioned you a while ago? Let's see here. So Killjoy, he has his main channel where he talks about horror and all that stuff. He has a gaming channel. I've just got this channel. This is my only channel. DJ Plays Favorites. So nothing, no side piece for me, just this one here. Boom, subbed after the Crypt video. Thank you so much, Raymond, for throwing those guys some love. Yeah, I honestly, guys, I want to hop on a plane and fly out there to Wales and kick it with those guys like right away, because I could see myself slamming some 20-ounce pints, some real English pints, none of this 16-ounce American nonsense pints that we got out here. Any sentence of Jamie's that begins with "I'm going to see ... is a true statement. We all know she'll see it in the theater." Prince's top 4 games: Need for Speed, Most Wanted, Mortal Kombat Unchained, Uncharted, Tekken 3. My top 3 are probably Castlevania, Resident Evil 4, and I don't know, Super Metroid, something like that. Is there a movie that made you feel uncomfortable because it's weirdly made? Sure. Yeah, all sorts of movies make me feel a little weird. I kind of like it when they make me feel a little weird. Natural Born Killers is one that's like pretty weirdly made. as far as all the editing decisions and effects and all that stuff. Yeah. I mean, a lot of movies have made me feel uncomfortable for sure. Brothers from Another Mothers. There it is. I love Welsh and Scottish accent, mate. And I thought the guys were Irish because to me the Welsh accent sounds more Irish than Scottish. But it is tough to decipher when you're not from there. You know, we all do like all right, well, I could do a little bit of a British accent. If we're going to do a bit of a Cockney thing there, I'm going to channel a little bit of Bob Hoskins in it. Like you can do that kind of thing. Like we can all do these generic accents, just like we can do a Southern accent. Like I'm a real Southern American, you know, like you can do those generic accents, but there is something really charming about someone's natural accent. I know people give Barry from Wolfman's Got Nards a lot of shit. I've always been able to understand him, and I think the accent is pretty charming. Boom, Jamie dropped it right there. A watch along of John Doe Juggalo. John Doe Juggalo. Did you drop into the chat just because did your ears start to burn because of something about Dead Alive? Yeah. At least Curtis and I are planning on a Dead Alive watch party. Hopefully we can get Jenks on board for that as well. That would be a little Twisted Locker Davey Deathray crossover. That would be a lot of fun. I'm a massive fan. It's my second favorite zombie film of all time, next to George A. Romero's Day of the Dead from 1985. So yeah, I really love that one. And here I'll say my favorite quote from Dead Alive. Party's over. Love that shit when he busts in with the friggin' lawnmower. Oh, so good. And that's, the Beths and Dead Alive, two things from New Zealand that I love so very much. Boom, Paula just subbed to my channel or to Twisted Lockers. Do both. How about it? Do both. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. We are about 3.5 hours in. Holy crap. I'm going to be in trouble. I've been on for so long. Do that accent again, please. Do a little bit of a Bob Hoskins, isn't it? Guys, have you seen The Long Good Friday with Bob Hoskins? It's friggin' amazing. The dude is like Cockney as all get out in that film. It's pretty incredible stuff. Jamie says, my great grandma was from Scotland and I loved her accent. Yeah, I love Barry is like, what does he always say? Like, hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Barry. Like there's like a little bit of an L that goes in there with the Scottish accent. And then even when they say, like when he says film, it's like film. There's like an extra syllable in there. It's really like I love those nuances and differences. Just because I'm imitating an accent, it doesn't mean I'm making fun of it. Like I do think that there's like something genuinely fascinating about them and all that kind of stuff. So, hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name's Batty. Like I get a kick out of it. I don't know. What can you do? Bro, I love Dead Alive, says John Doe Juggalo. I'll probably be watching along. Hell yeah, man. And Paula is Irish. There it is, Paula, myself as well. A whole bunch of Irish up in me. Absolutely. Is Dr. Doomy Jr. a winner? And you know what? I'll just wait until I see it. I have full faith that Robert Downey Jr. can perform whatever he wants to perform. I think he's a fantastic actor. And I can't blame them for wanting to bring him in some capacity. So, in the interest of being somebody that likes when chances are taken, I think this is kind of a chance in a way to really do something like next level comic booky, something that's sort of a little bit meta in a way. And yeah, I think it should be great. Ashton says, hey, excuse me, I have a Southern accent. And I know they're all different. That's the funny thing about Southern accents. It's like, just because y'all talk like this, that don't mean that's just one state of the United States. And then there's the ones that talk like this, a little bit more subtle, you got a little bit more of that molasses in your voice, that kind of thing. So yeah. And then there's my West Coast accent that just seems so baseline, right? Sounded like Seth Green imitating Jason Statham in The Italian Job. Your mother ate my dog. Not all of it. I love that. Not all of it. Or what about what? No pudding. That's another great line too. The W L W L. Thank you, Nora. Yeah. annual meeting. People tuning into the channel right now are like, is this guy okay? Is he having a stroke midstream? No, I just really love Dead Alive. What can you do? Thank you so much, Paula, for subbing. Really appreciate you. What's happening, Kramos? Greetings from Chile. Boom. Oh my gosh. Well, Kramos, we're sort of wrapping up the stream right now, but go ahead and scrub on back because we had an awesome, like almost 2-hour chat with Killjoy Jake. It was incredible hanging out with him. And man, the guy is just, you can just bounce every idea off of him and he's got something to say, super intelligent, really great content creator. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody make Kramos feel welcome. I can't believe there's 20 people watching right now. I would have jumped off this stream if it had dwindled, but you guys just keep pulling me back in. Gosh, should I take off my blazer? Is that too casual? I'm sweating bullets, as Dave Mustaine would say. Aaron says, I'd like to think my British accent is pretty good. It comes from following/loving so many British punk rock bands. Yeah, I get my British accent, I guess, from like shows like the IT Crowd. I really love that show a lot, so I pick it up from there a little bit. Monty Python, of course, love myself some Monty Python. Boom, boom. Davey, come to the Philippines. You'll love the hospitality here. I bet, man. And you know what, Prince? Where I grew up in Southeast Alaska, massive Filipino population. No joke. I'd say there's as many Filipinos as there are white people and native people in Juneau. It's a huge culture. I know a lot of Asian folks came over when the fishing industry kicked off in Alaska. And there's, man, when I grew up Catholic, so going to mass every Sunday, it was, getting to know all the Filipino families. So I've eaten myself many a loco moco in my life for sure. And I'd love to visit. One of my uncles actually lives out there in the Philippines. Yeah, I never really vibed with the Menzingers too much, Tyler. They seemed a little too shoegazy for me. Like, even though they were on all these punk rock bills, I've never really thought of them as a punk rock band. And I've had a really tough time like finding like where the melodic hooks are with the Menzingers. They just never if you think there's a song that's like a standout song, like please send it to me, because I've heard things here and there and I've never heard anything. Even they had that video where there's like Jason Voorhees is in the video and it's about how to not be like a total shit or whatever. For whatever reason, they just never grabbed me. It just seemed like sort of shoegazy. I don't know, like I guess it's punk rock, but it just seems like there was no get up and go, like a lot of mid-tempo kind of stuff, which I don't mind mid-tempo music, but if you're going to tell me it's punk rock and it's mid-tempo, like I'm probably going to bail. Notice Barry's pronunciation. Film. There's an E in there between the L and the M. Joseph Quinn, Eddie Munson will be Johnny Storm in the new Fantastic Four. Man, I know like nothing about that Fantastic Four except for Pedro Pascal. Someone should highlight the accent. I'll make it one of my shorts. All right. All right, we do a little bit of a British thing there for put that down the YouTube short and people think I'm a Cockney from Britain. How about that? Something like that. Greetings from New England. All right. Hell yeah. Part of my fam is in Houston. My mom and littlest bro are out there. All right. Really good with Sting's impression of Billy Idol. Yes. I remember that one. Sting is really fun on SNL. Absolutely. I'm trying to figure out music, guitar, something, sad face. Oh, is that because of what I said about the Menzingers? I'm sorry. I have tried some Filipino foods. Adobo. Yeah. Chicken adobo. Love it. Well, what did I notice? I mean, I just grew up around, those families. So, big families, great community atmosphere. Like I always felt welcome hanging out in my, Filipino friends' homes and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, certainly the food out there in Alaska, there's a lot of Filipino food. You go to a potluck or something and you're going to have a lot of the Filipino food. So absolutely. And let's just be honest, some really beautiful people. Holy cow. Yeah, not going to complain about that. Them high cheekbones, I'll always take a little bit of that. Kind of sounds like Christian Bale. Yeah, I love that Christian Bale is so Cockney and then he does that amazing American accent. try sissing sometime. All right. You'll have to send me a picture so I know what it is. It's all about that pan seat. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm finally caught up on the chat. We're at 3 hours and 32 minutes. Holy cow. There's 20 people in here, but it is very late. I know it's very late for you guys. For some of us, it's really early, like Curtis out in Wales. It's about 6:40 in the morning. I love Christian Bale too, Paula. Such a great actor. American Psycho cracks me up. I know maybe it's not supposed to be funny, but I think it's a really awesome dark comedy / horror movie. Really big fan of Bale's work for sure. See you in the DM, says Prince. Hell yeah. Well, you guys are awesome. I am going to wrap it up here because it is so late. Really appreciate you guys tuning in for the show tonight. I had an amazing time with our guest, Killjoy Jake. Links in the description below for his main channel and his gaming channel, and also his Instagram as well. And guys, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact. Share it with somebody that you think would be interested in this kind of content, and check out what we've got on the channel. There's something for everyone there. Feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you want to see on the channel. And we've got memberships unlocked as well. So for as little as 99 cents a month, you can be a channel member and get exclusive content. Really fun stuff. And man, we've got a whole bunch coming up. I just want to let you guys know we've got on Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be on Drum Dum's channel with Nick from the Lost River Drive-In. We're going to be talking about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, celebrating its 15th anniversary. We're all big fans of that film. And then what else? This weekend, I'm going to be shooting a whole bunch of stuff. So you guys are probably going to see a live stream this weekend. And man, next Wednesday, on the actual 15th anniversary of Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, we've got Cody Leach on Late Night with the Davey. I am pumped. I've been watching Cody for years. He's one of the most successful YouTubers out there in this whole horror movie review sphere. So I'm really excited to have a chat with him about, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I want to talk to him about music. I want to give him a break from talking about movies a little bit, but I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of everything, and I'm super pumped. So boom. Curtis says, enjoy your sleep while I get ready for work. Hell yeah. Like the movie, loved him in The Fighter and the Batman. Yeah, he's amazing. 1:40 a.m. out where Jamie's at. Thank you so much for hanging with us, Jamie. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much, Eli. You guys have made it a great stream. Absolutely. And it is too much fun no matter how late it is. But at some point I have to eat dinner and it's almost 11 p.m. Oh my goodness. You guys are amazing. I love y'all so much. Thank you for subbing to the channel, being here for the chat, hanging out with me every time I go live. You guys fuel what we do here at the channel. You guys are my home away from home. Really appreciate y'all. Can't wait to see you next time around. So be on the lookout Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern over on Drum Dums. I'm going to be sharing that shit. And yes, Eli, I will keep an eye on the mailbox. You are too kind, man. All right. Let's see if I can catch my breath and do my outro. Love you guys so much. And until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.